Good evening. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start the, we're going to do a quick review of the agenda, and then we're going to start the official meeting in just a couple of minutes. Thank you all for being with us. I want to just quickly walk through the agenda, give the commission, and see if there's any questions. Are there any questions about the consent agenda?
I've just got one thing I'd like to just hear 5 minutes on, because I think it's a great asset for the public. It's the budget amendment summaries. We included a summary in there, so I'm sure we get to hear a message on that so people can access it and review it.
Okay, and so we'll just get a little bit of additional information about that, and then not a second, sorry.
No.
Okay. right, anything else? I'll note that the resolution allowing amendment to purchase option lease with Land and Sky Regional Council for a portion of Lester Crossing has been removed from the consent agenda, so that is no longer on the consent agenda or the agenda. All right, the following consent agenda, under good news, we have some congratulations to offer to Scott Mashburn, and we have an update on the Early Childhood Initiative. Following that, we have a presentation on Elder Abuse Awareness Month. We do have a proclamation on that item. Would any member of the commission like to read that for us? Thank you, Commissioner Belcher. Following that item, we have a public hearing on an economic development incentive for General Electric. And following that, we have a public hearing on the fiscal year 19 budget. We will be taking public comment on any items that we vote on this evening, as well as public hearings. So the economic development incentive item, we will take public comment on that, as well as the public hearing for the FY19 budget. During the following that, we have the county manager's report, which includes the Safe Sharps disposal and an update from the Justice Resource Center. And then under new business, we have a resolution appointing a county commission attorney and a resolution authorizing payments for maintenance and operation of the Zwigner Pool. And we will take comment on both of those items. Following that, we will have general public comment as well for any topics that members of the public would like to address the commission on, as long as they haven't been previously addressed earlier in the agenda. All right, are there any questions about any aspect of the agenda? All right. We do anticipate we will have a need for a closed session following our regular meeting this evening.
Yes, sir. As the board has requested, we'll have a legal matter to discuss pursuant to 143, 318, 11A3.
Thank you very much. All right, if there's no questions, then Max, I think we're ready to begin the introductory video.
Mr. Chairman, how about you all getting up close to your mics today so we can hear back here? Thank you.
Good evening. I want to welcome you all to the June 5th, 2018 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission. Thank you all for being with us. Let's begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we begin the meeting this evening, there are two things that are on my mind. First, as the school year comes to a close, we as a community owe a debt of gratitude to the teachers, principals, administration, leadership, and all of the public staff who work to support our public schools in Asheville and Buncombe County. Our children and youth are better because of their deep commitment to education and therefore we as a community are also better. We do not say thank you enough to those who work to support our schools and kids. So let us tonight say again, thank you. Second, our commission agenda this evening includes continued focus on the struggle our community faces, along with other communities across the country, with the opioid crisis. It is not the first time this issue has been on our agenda, and it will unfortunately not be the last. As we recognize both the great things that are happening in our community and the hard issues that are before us, it's evident that we are at our best when we come together, even as we share differences of opinion and approaches on these issues. Before we begin our work this evening, let us have a moment of silent prayer and reflection for the safety of our kids and families as they begin their summer vacations, and for answers for how we can support those who are struggling in our community with challenges that can sometimes be too difficult to be solved alone. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much.
I'd like to take a moment to, the town of Black Mountain suffered horrendous losses with the flooding last Wednesday. 71 people were displaced, the majority of them are back in their homes, but the damage to the community, they were without water. They had water, but it was on a boil advisory for 6 days, and millions of dollars worth of damage was done to infrastructure, greenways, parks. But knowing Black Mountain, they will rally, but I hope you can have all those folks in your mind, because the ones that got displaced, once again, were the poorest people that live in Black Mountain.
Thank you, Commissioner Frost. All right, before we begin our meeting, I'd like to ask everyone to please silence your cell phones, place them on mute or turn them off. We also want to announce that parking validation and bus passes are now available for commission workshops and our public meetings. Anyone parking for this meeting or using public transit can pick up passes from our security personnel on the way out. We want to make it easy for folks to access our commission meetings. The passes are valid only for the meeting today. All right, I want to quickly read the ethics reminder to the board. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the board, all county commissioners have a duty to obey all applicable laws regarding official actions, to uphold the integrity and independence of the office, to avoid impropriety in the exercise of official duties, to faithfully perform the duties of the office, and to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner. Are there any items on the agenda, the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any board member? Does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote on all matters that are voted on by the board this evening. All right, we now come to the consent agenda. Oh, and I'm sorry, I neglected in the pre-meeting to note that we need to add one item to the agenda, which is the appointment of an interim finance director effective June 16th. May we add that by consensus? Great. All right, we will take that up under new business. All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner Belcher requested some additional information about the budget amendment summaries. So looks like Mandy Stone will help us out with that.
So Chairman and Commissioners, as part of our transition and moving toward a more transparent system, we amended our budget amendment format close to a year ago to provide more detail, sometimes even pictures, future impact. So we had made those changes early in county management transition. Still meant that individuals, whether it were commissioners or the public, had to click on every budget amendment. So in an effort to streamline transparency, we've added one single document for all the budget amendments Just make him look at one page and know every budget amendment, the detail and impact related to it. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just want to make sure the public knew that that was there, that it is an excellent summary. You just click on it and print it. And if you want more detail, you can go to that detail, but if you just want the summary, it gives excellent information. So, and it'll appear in the consent most of the time, but we can go out if we want to. But I just want you to make sure they know about it so they would access it, because it's good information. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda and to follow the remainder of the agenda as published? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Under good news, we have congratulations to Scott Mashburn. Mr. Mashburn won second place in the North Carolina Chapter Solid Waste Association of North America Rodeo winner, heavy equipment operator. So Mr. Mashburn, congratulations, and appreciate your work. And Jim's got a few things to add.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity. As you stated, Chairman, each year the local or the state SWANA chapter offers a rodeo, and it's an opportunity to highlight and showcase the skills of driving of landfill operations. And while that's a great opportunity for them to enter into a friendly competition across the state about showcasing their skills, it is a highly specialized and very important and critically important aspect of operating a landfill, that we have extremely qualified people operating the equipment. They operate massive equipment that is about making sure that the landfill is safe environmentally and from a public health perspective that it's safe. And so while we're glad that there's a competition, we're happy to highlight the great skill that people like Scott demonstrate day in and day out, and we're so glad that he was able to go to the competition, and he came away second place winner, and he will now compete against others in Denver this summer to be able to compete nationally. And I would just highlight, this is the second year in a row that we've had winners from that. And so, Scott, congratulations for doing a great job and for representing us so well. And as part of the recognition for Scott, we also want to let you know that he will be receiving a performance bonus of $750 for his diligence and his efforts in the solid waste. His wife, Josette, is here also to celebrate that. And I also want to recognize and take an opportunity to recognize the solid waste management team, and that's Danny Peterson, Christy Smith, Nick Edmonds, and Stephen Hunter. They do an outstanding job day in and day out of making sure that we have a well-operated landfill and transfer station. So it's my great privilege to congratulate Scott and to celebrate that good news. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim, and congratulations, Scott, on representing Buncombe County, and we know you're going to continue to do a great job, so best of luck going forward. All right, the next item under good news is an update on the Early Childhood Initiative, and Commissioners Jasmine B. Ferrara and Robert Presley are going to be helping us out on this one.
Good evening. If you asked a parent in Buncombe County what they would do to make sure their child had every opportunity in the world, their reply would be pretty much anything. That's exactly the spirit we need in our community. And that's why last December this commission unanimously passed a strategic priority to ensure that every child in Buncombe County has an equal opportunity to thrive in their first 2,000 days through initiatives such as expanding access to high-quality early childhood education. And that's why we're here tonight, to celebrate the good news of 2 new early childhood initiatives that will mean more kids and families have access to early childhood education, and that mean that more qualified teachers are being recruited and supported through the early years of their training. The reality right now is that too many kids in Buncombe County are struggling. 1/4 of kids in our community live in poverty, and others struggle due to factors like the lack of access to healthy food or unstable housing. I and this commission truly believe we can change this reality, and that expanding access to early childhood education is a key part of how we'll do it. It works in the short term to help kids succeed in school, and it sets in motion a lifetime of benefits, from improved health to access to post-secondary education to increased earnings. Tonight, we want to give thanks for and celebrate the good news of these new classrooms, these new opportunities for teachers, these new partnerships, and all the children whose lives can be changed by this work. Happy to introduce Commissioner Robert Presley, who will add some remarks.
I think she said it all, but, you know, it's very important to me that as a commission, all 7 of us unanimously voted on this. But the important thing about it is we made it a priority, and we got 6 priorities here that are top of our list, and this is one of them, and we're continuing with the other ones also. And I just got to thank Jasmine for all the work she has put into this, and of all of us that are supporting it and will continue to support it. Thank you. Rachel.
Hi, Rachel Nygaard. The 2 initiatives that we are here to announce and to celebrate tonight are partnering with the YWCA to expand their high-quality early child care center. With partnership from Buncombe County, the YWCA will grow from serving 80 children to an additional 42 children on top of that 80, adding an infant classroom and adding 2 pre-K classrooms. And so Salah Merritt is here with us, and we're going to say a couple of words about that. That partnership is more of a long-term strategy. We brought together in recent months conversations around what can we do to improve the early childhood system and identify ways to tackle the issue of not enough highly qualified teachers in the field. And so this new partnership has come together, a partnership for excellence in early childhood education, spearheaded by Warren Wilson College. And we have from Warren Wilson, Dr. Amy Jonas, who's professor and director of faculty engagement, and also with that collaborative, Werner Center for Early Learning, AV Tech, and Buncombe County Schools. So I invite Salah and Annie and Jackie and others to come up. We'll say a few words to give more information about those partnerships and do a quick photo op to celebrate this evening.
Good evening. Again, my name is Salah Merritt. I'm the Chief Program Officer with the YWCA, Chairman and Commissioners. On behalf of the YWCA of Asheville, we thank you for the opportunity to partner with us as we work to address the child care crisis here in Buncombe County. There is a quote that says, "Unity is strength. When there is teamwork and collaboration, wonderful things can be achieved." With this said, this partnership between our organizations will allow us to do wonderful things. With your assistance, we have been able to begin the expansion of our early learning program. We currently provide child care to approximately 80 children. With your assistance, we'll be able to provide child care to approximately 42 more children in our community. These funds have allowed us to move from having one classroom of infant, toddlers, 2-year-olds, and 3-year-olds to 2 classrooms each, and that is significant for us. We're also reconstructing our playground with some of the funds we have been provided by the county. This expansion has been made possible largely in part by this partnership and your generosity. Again, we thank you for partnering with us and supporting us as we continue to do great work. Thank you.
I'm Annie Jonas, Chair of the Education Department at Warren Wilson, and we are so pleased to have this commitment from the Buncombe County Commission. I want to applaud you for supporting this innovative and creative solution that brings together many, many partners. And we're just proud to be leading this effort in our community. Thank you for your commitment. We feel like this, our Partnership for Excellence in Early Childhood Education offers creative solutions and innovation with the strength of a collaborative public and private partnership. And to demonstrate the breadth of that partnership, I'd like to invite President Lynn Morton from Warren Wilson to come forward, my colleague Maura Davis from Warren Wilson, Jennifer Bosworth from AV Tech, Marsha Whitney from Verner, Jackie Pennick representing Verner, and we're starting to run out of room. Chris Tucker, and then from Buncombe County Schools, Crystal Cheek, and Gina Toomey. So this is the breadth of the partnership. I want to hand it over to Jackie Pennick, who will say a few words.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, you know, it was your work session on the early childhood teacher shortage that spawned this project. It's amazing that such key community partners came together to create what I think will be one of the best things that happened in early childhood for a long, long time in this community. The beauty is that it's not only the potential to address the teacher shortage by putting more bodies in a classroom, but to truly develop high-quality teachers that are well-trained and committed to the positive outcomes for our children, no matter what their socioeconomic backgrounds might be. But it is our county commissioners and your commitment to early childhood and to making a difference during those first 2,000 days of life for all children, and the grant that you have given to us that is giving wings to this project. And we can't thank you enough. And I will say that I am retiring, actually have retired, and I couldn't think of a better gift that you could have given me to care so much and support this project for young children and families in our community. So, thank you.
Yeah, we would love to, get a good picture. Is her here?
Try to get it.
They'll Photoshop us in later.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the most people we've had behind that thing. And y'all know y'all come out around that, but we almost had a fire issue because I think we only can handle like so many people. Y'all can smile in this meeting, it's fine.
All right, thank you all for that. Terrific update. All right, next up is a proclamation recognizing Elder Abuse Awareness Month. Christina Stenhouse with HHS will accept the proclamation, which will be presented by Commissioner Belcher.
It's my pleasure to read this proclamation, and we'll have a 2 words after this. So, the County of Buncombe proclamation of Vulnerable Adults and Elder Abuse Awareness Month. Whereas Buncombe County's vulnerable and elder adults deserve to live safely with dignity, and whereas vulnerable and elder adults of all socioeconomic, racial, and ethnic backgrounds may be targets of abuse, neglect, or exploitation, which occurs in families, long-term care facilities, and communities. And whereas 1,704 reports of abuse, neglect, or exploitation of vulnerable and elder adults were made in Public County Health and Human Services in 2017, with 1,127 screened in for evaluation. Whereas many cases of elder abuse and mistreatment go unreported, professionals are often unaware of the problem. And whereas protecting Buncombe County's vulnerable and elder adults is a community responsibility, and it is imperative that communities work together to help reduce and prevent abuse, neglect, and exploitation, including physical, psychological, or financial abuse. And whereas all residents should watch for signs of abuse such as physical trauma, withdrawal, depression, anxiety, fear of family members, friends, or caregivers, and report suspected abuse or exploitation to the County Health and Human Services Office. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe as follows. 1, that this board does hereby proclaim June 2018 as Vulnerable Adults and Elder Abuse Awareness Month in Buncombe County. 2, that this board does hereby encourage all citizens to participate in community efforts to support and improve the safety and well-being of vulnerable and elder adults and secure their right to live free of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. And 3, that this proclamation be effective upon its adoption, adopted this the 5th day of June 2018, Buncombe County Board of Commissioners, signed by Chairman Brown.
Shorten this little slow. June is always one of my favorite times of the year because we get this proclamation and it gives us a chance. We have a lot of things that go on in June that give us a chance to make the community aware of this issue, because any chance we have of doing anything about it starts with awareness, and it starts with awareness for all of you and all of the community. We know it's happening, and we can't do anything about it without having it reported to us and having people step out and take care of the people around them. Older adults are some of the most vulnerable people in our community, and I think sometimes we forget that. And this is a chance. June is always a chance for us to be able to say, hey, it is the truth, and we do need help. I do want to recognize I have a lot of staff here tonight, and I won't make you come up because I know you hate that. But if you will stand up, please. We have some supervisors and some social workers from Adult Services who, these are the people that hit the pavement every day, and these are the ones who go out there and show not only with their hard work and their great social work skills, but their amazing care and compassion every single day to do something for these adults in our community. And a lot of times they have to see things and do things that people don't really want to know are happening. And they do something about it every single day, no matter what. And I just appreciate so much having such an amazing staff. The last thing I'll say, and I'll be quick, every time I have a captive audience, I try to say this. It really, truly takes the whole community for us to do any of the things that we're trying to do to protect adults. And it takes the public, it takes great partnerships with our community partners, which I feel like we have. And we have some really exciting things that are going on right now that really highlight those partnerships, and I just wanted to touch on them very quickly. Chairman Newman, I don't know if you've received notification from AARP yet that we were accepted into the community, the Age-Friendly Community Network, but we have been, and if you haven't received that, it should be coming. But I just wanted to kind of make everyone aware very briefly of what that means for Buncombe County, because it is a really big deal. We started working on that application in the fall of 2017, and with the support of our commissioners and with the support of Mandy Stone, who was our HHS director when we very first started doing all of this, we were able to get an application together that AARP accepted and put us into a network where we get a lot of national support now for trying to make our community of Buncombe County age-friendly. And I just want to read to you what that definition is so that it's not just words and you actually understand what that means. An age-friendly community has policies, services, and structures that facilitate older adults staying healthy, participating in economic growth, remaining socially active, and living in security. Communities in which older adults can successfully age are more likely to mitigate the challenges and enjoy the opportunities related to older citizens. Actions leading to age-friendly communities lead to happier, healthier residents of all ages. And that's true. There are 8 domains of livability that are involved in this network: outdoor spaces and buildings, transportation, housing, social participation, respect and social inclusion, civic participation and employment, communication and information, and community and health services. And this is a 5-year process, so we're just kind of at the beginning of getting everything together, but there are a lot of exciting things happening with this. And it ties directly to one of the goals of the new Buncombe County Aging Plan that we adopted in January of this year, which was to increase age-friendly capabilities of our county. And it's a need, and it's something that we're really addressing, and we so appreciate everyone's support and help in doing that. Basically what it is really infusing age awareness into things that are already happening in our county. This isn't reinventing the wheel, there may be some new things, but it's really looking at what's already going on and how do we make it more age-friendly for all ages, but especially for older adults. So, like I said, there's a timeline going for the next 5 years. There'll be a steering committee that's being put together, and we will absolutely be offering an invitation to any commissioners who have any interest in being involved in that steering committee, because we would love your input and your leadership. I just want to say that we really, really appreciate the support of all of you. Our county government leadership has really gotten behind us on this, and we feel really great. We would not have been able to get in this network without your all support and your endorsement. So thank you so, so much, and we really appreciate all that you do.
Can't hear you back there, Brownie.
Thank you. Tim Love will present this item on the General Electric Economic Development Incentive.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners, public. Today, we've asked Michael McGuire, who's the plant manager for our G facility in town, to come in and present on the nature of the expansion project, in particular the timeline. We also have a few slides that we'd like to show you that will help us facilitate today's discussion. Now on your screen. These slides are just kind of a summary of what is present in the Economic Development Agreement. And we will walk you through. I have some technical assistance. All right, so like I said, Michael McGuire, the plant manager for GE, will walk us through, so I'll let him speak.
Yeah, so a little bit of background about GE Aviation for folks that may not be familiar about our operation. We make jet engine components for GE Aviation, which is based on every commercial platform that we produce. We're about 420 employees roughly right now and continuing to grow. And again, this business has been around since really the late 40s. It continues to grow. And really, GE looks at this site as one of its premier sites, and it's really mostly because of the technical expertise of our employees, which really come from Buncombe County, and also the reason they're continuing to invest in a site like ours is because really we have a community that supports economic growth, supports manufacturing, and we have the support of local government officials that are behind what our business is trying to do. You know, as part of the commitment that we're making is we're adding an incremental 131 jobs over the next several years, as well as another $105 million of capital investment into the community. And then with those jobs, the the annual wage rates are in the $49,000 range. So we feel like that the good paying, long-term stable growth technology jobs are really what Buncombe County needs. And that's the type of jobs that these are. High-tech, very complex, and great growth jobs for our community. Next slide. Yeah, so this is just a schedule of the investment through the end of 2021. You can see the investment on the left side, and then to the right you can see the jobs over the next several years. So we feel like this is a great commitment that our business is putting a good faith effort into the growth of this area.
Thank you, Michael. At this time, I'll walk us through some of the highlights from the Economic Development Agreement. As always, Mr. Frew is available if there are any questions about the contract or the legal matters. In terms of our next slide, one thing I'd like to stress about this particular agreement, it is a joint economic development agreement When I say joint, this effort includes city dollars as well as county dollars, and in addition, a matching grant from the state. So very important that our local partners are all playing together in this space. In addition, as it relates to the county's portion of this, per our economic development agreement, the numbers that you see on the screen are those that are proposed this evening. These are pending this public hearing and ultimately your vote. But in terms of the incentive agreement, we're looking at about $685,000 payable over 3 years. If you look at the breakout of that, it's about 50% for jobs and 50% for investment, so about $342,000 per. Again, this is payable over a 3-year period, and you can see that paid out schedule in the presentation. Next slide. In terms of the impact of this economic development agreement, this is a key part of why we do this. But we're talking about, as Michael said, the creation of 131 jobs and approximately $104 million in capital and business personal property investment that is taxable in Buncombe County. When we talk about the amount of tax that is anticipated, these are estimates, but we're looking at approximately $2.8 million in tax revenue over a 10-year period, which is an estimate, of course. In addition, we've been provided analysis from our Economic Development Coalition partners, the EDC, and you can see that analysis that is provided to us in that table. When the EDC does their research, they look at what they call direct effect, which are those actual jobs that are created by the company. And so in this case, 131 new jobs for approximately $7 million in labor income. From there, they talk about the indirect effect of GE in the community. And those indirect effects, those are more related to suppliers, not necessarily GE, but those that sort of supply GE with parts and components or software, or services. Our final area is induced effect, and so this is labor income on paychecks that are sort of derived in Buncombe County and sort of spent in the local community. So when you look at all of those numbers, the EDC estimates approximately 280 jobs for about $12.8 million in terms of labor income. Those are our quick slides for today, our presentation on the Economic Development Agreement. Are there any questions?
I've got a question on the job slide. You're showing 14.2, and then you comment on the first year is 14, second year is 2. 2 is kind of unusual to see that. Can you all comment on that?
Yeah, so that's based on production schedules, and we see a very quick ramp, so we've tried to build that plan. That plan is very fluid. We're seeing right now that we're already, a lot of these numbers were put together earlier in the year. We're starting to see those numbers pull to the left already.
Okay, I have 2 other questions. One is, originally when the GE, when the plant was built, and there was approximately 300 employees there at that time.
290 is where we were at the baseline.
When was that? What year was that?
That was in early 14.
Okay, and you say you're at 420 now.
Correct. So our original incentive was in 2014 was for 52 people, and we've exceeded that incentive by 80 people. So we've blown past that. And as well as we're about $6 million past the investment of our original commitment as well. So the performance is there, and we feel like that this growth plan will also exceed.
So the other question that I have, or I'd like for maybe you can comment on this a little bit. I know that for the benefit of Ms. Cheek and CTE, Pisgah. My understanding that Pisgah and the high school has a program where kids come, they work at GE, and then some of them right out of high school are going to work for GE. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And I just think it's a great thing. I think it's good for certainly that community and our county too, but I just would like to hear a little bit about that and what you pay them when they start right out of high school.
Yeah, so thanks, Joe. We've got a program through Pisgah High School. It's a partnership, and we also have this through AB Tech, and we're working with some other high schools as well. But Pisgah has been the main one. We actually take seniors in high school, their entire senior year, they will go to school in the morning. They come to us around 10 o'clock and they work about 6 hours in the afternoons. That comes out of their machining program. We have a very tough time getting really high-skilled machinists. Again, you're building aircraft engine components that are, measured in tenths of thousands, so a fraction of a human hair, and the ability to machine these components take a very, very high skill. And we found that we can get really strong technical talent out of that program, out of Pisgah. So we pay these high school students about $16 an hour out of the gate, and they are not only able to learn a great skill, and it's a apprenticeship program. After a certain period of time, they come out with an apprenticeship program diploma that they graduate from, as well as earning income and have a long-standing stable job going forward. We have hired a huge percentage of our workforce comes out of that program, and we're attempting to expand that, again, have it with AV Tech and some other schools as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
One thing I will add, we gave Pisgah a $100,000 grant last year as a means of trying to give back to that program.
How many employees that are currently working there came from Buncombe County?
That's a good question. I don't have that number breakdown of our employees right now. Something I'd be able to get to you. I would say it's a large percentage. I wouldn't even want to guess.
And the average of 49,000, what's the range of that? What's the lowest and what would be the highest? And how does that break out?
Yeah, again, I don't have those numbers in front of me right now. I mean, an average is definitely an average. I mean, we have the vast majority of our employees, of course, are the machinists, technicians, but at the same time, with running a very complex operation as we do, engineers, leadership, quality, inspection technology folks, I mean, that the range is very wide.
No, I appreciate that. We were just trying to get away from salary averages. We were trying to get more specific wages, but that's fine.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have those numbers with you.
Yeah, there's thank you, Michael, thank you, Tim. Any other information for now, or we could,
I would add just briefly, the economic development agreement that is before you is written in a way that GE must create new jobs, but also maintain existing jobs. So when you look at the total footprint of GE, at the end of this agreement, there'll be 550-ish jobs. So we're seeing, a growth there. So that's what I would.
all right. Thank you. We're going to hold a public hearing, so let's go ahead and do that now. I will open the public hearing at 5:46 p.m. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment? Mr. Yelton? And each person who comments will have up to 3 minutes to speak before about this item.
I think I can get it all in 3 minutes. First and foremost, I'm all for economic development. I sure see money going there rather than parks and greenways when we live in the middle of the Blue Ridge Parkway in the Great Smoky Mountains. And we got the French Broad River to drown in if we want to. But if you read your literature, commissioners, it will tell you where that average 40-some came from. Under their proposal for that economic grant, the details are in what your county manager has given you. There's 25 jobs in the $90,000 range and 100 and some jobs in the $37,000 to $39,000 range. So that information is in front of you and was in your package, okay? So I suggest you read those. Furthermore, it's very obvious that Pisgah has done a good job in going out in the community and finding something to do. So I think that's good use of the money, and I happen to be looking at our superintendent of Buncombe County Schools. I think we need to be doing the same thing. You all have had some great questions here. And the question I would like answered, and let's see if any of you care enough to do it. How many of the jobs, and Ellen, this plays on your question, how many of the jobs are filled by people from Buncombe County. Not that we don't care, but our traffic is bad enough. We don't need more people driving in from Haywood County, as you all know if you live in Haywood County, or driving in from Madison. Bottom line is we need to know how many employees come from Buncombe County and how many of those high-paying jobs go to people from this area. And that involves AB Tech. And everything that I mentioned, Buncombe County Schools, AB Tech, the average, you all have that information on it, Mr. Whiteside. And I think it needs to be looked at in detail. But thank you for the questions you've asked. Please keep pursuing them. I have nothing against this company. I started this out by saying I'd rather see money go to economic development than I had to greenways and parkways. So keep those questions up. But look in your package and you'll see the numbers I just gave you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, we will adjourn the public hearing at 5:49 p.m. I'll bring it back to the board for discussion or motion.
I move that we approve the incentive plan.
There's a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, passes 6-0. Thank you guys for the information, and Michael, great to see you. Good luck on the expansion, and appreciate all the work that's happening at your facility in Buncombe County. Thank you.
Keep us updated on that, the CTE program, the machines program out there too. We'd love to get as much information as we can on it, okay?
Okay, next up is the FY19 budget, and Mandy Stone will tee us off.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. I want to begin just with a summary of the budget message on May 15th. I do want to make the point as we begin the presentation that line item budget, interactive budget tools, all details for the budget will have been posted by the time you vote on the budget 6 weeks to the public. So we've made a lot of effort, and I want to talk through that when the slides come up, to engage the public and seek public involvement and input in this process. The first slide you see shows the timeline over the last year beginning July 11th, about 11 days after I started work, and what resulted in a series of 50 hours of public work sessions you held in the last year related to the budget. If somebody goes to this slide online, you can click on any of those. They're live links, and go back to the details of those presentations. And you know, again, we talked about it last time, and I want to make the point, in those work sessions, it was about deepening the understanding and awareness of commissioners, and through that process, the public related to our budget. Also want to say, while we appreciate the coverage of the media related to the budget, we've also pushed out stories ourselves via Facebook. We really want the public to know what's in this budget and offer them every opportunity to comment on it and participate, not only in this budget hearing, but in the opportunity they have over the next 2 weeks to reach out to you as commissioners or us as staff with questions or comments. Again, the budget that we brought to you on the 15th, the county prepared a budget. As you know, you got line item budgets this year. We went back and built line item budgets in every department. We brought you a budget request that would decrease the tax rate by 1 cent through efficiencies, removal of duplication, maximizing resources across departments. That would have brought you a budget proposal at $315,311 at 52.9 tax rate. That held all services whole, addressed departmental needs, and advanced your 6 strategic priorities, one of which you heard about earlier tonight, and another of which you'll hear about later. In our work session on May 8th, We received a request from our public education systems, which totaled $4 million. As a result of that, we brought you a proposed but flat tax rate, a proposed budget of $318,720,851. That included $3.4 million of the education request. It reduced the education request by $618,000. That was in order to comply with your own policy related to fund balance. It did address the majority of the education request as well as hold the tax rate flat. I talked about in the budget message the last year, a very challenging year, but a year where I feel like as an organization, we looked adversity in the eye and saw opportunity. We made significant changes to our management system. We built infrastructure across financial systems and management system. We built out budget and financial oversight and built systems for ongoing monitoring and increased transparency to the public. We also delivered quality services across our departments. We continued to deliver those services and we advanced your strategic priorities. And I'll remind you in the public that if they go to the website, they can click on the detail in each of those 3 categories. We spent the last year building a new budget framework, and part of that's about ownership. And that's ownership at all levels, understanding that the public elects you to be their representatives in their voice in terms of their needs, their tolerance for how we expend public dollars. We have ownership, and departments have ownership in the management and delivery of that, as do employees. So it's a shared ownership, and we want to be clear about what those unique roles were. We also focused on right-sizing, not only right-sizing department budgets, right-sizing the county budget, and also right-sizing fund balance and appropriated fund balance. And fortunately or unfortunately for the other institutions that you fund, we've asked you to consider right-sizing for them. You'll hear that as we move through tonight. Accountability. We really have tried to, through your instruction and direction, be very disciplined in our practice, very structured. We've used data to make informations and built dashboards and public systems so that not only you but the public can see every aspect of our financial and budget. Not only our data but our process. And then we built processes that quite frankly just didn't exist countywide. We built an inclusive budget model. Our performance management team, which was built using existing resources, has worked with every county department. Y'all have seen those line item budgets. You've seen the detail and depth at which they looked at trend data, they looked at revenues, they looked at fees, they've shared their notes with you and posted their notes to the public. All of that process being very forward-facing. What that new approach delivered in the first year is, from a county perspective, we addressed all departmental needs, and we still brought you a budget that recommended a 1-cent tax decrease. We also reduced our reliance on appropriated fund balance by 56% in this recommended budget. That's really important to us in terms of discipline and structure. You know, we have a long history of appropriating fund balance and not always expending it, but it becomes a real number. It's not a number you can just ignore. You either have to address it through reduced expenditures or increased revenues. We really wanted to end our reliance on it. We need to be able to manage the ongoing operations of the county without relying on savings or money that's intended for crisis situations. We developed a performance management system that began to build dashboards and measures across county departments, and you'll see that build out in the next year. Those will be the tools by which we evaluate every vacancy, the tools by which we're budgeting every day. Every day we're looking at where we are in terms of expenditures and revenues and service growth or changes, and how we realign the resources you've given us to achieve the best outcome for the public. We reduced salaries at the highest level of the organization to address the longstanding commitment you made for the lowest paid employees. and that continues in this budget. And we reallocated staff to better leverage resources. We took staff that existed across departments, often combined those to reduce redundancies and maximize resources and talent, and we feel like that's been a large part of this model. We also built out not only the work sessions, but online tools. And you've highlighted these at your work session. I'll talk a little bit in a minute about Budget Explorer. People can see our budget online through these dashboards and tools, the links at the bottom of it. They can see our debt and debt transparency, our debt affordability, all of our capital projects, all of our positions, all of our pay, and all of our benefits are forward-facing to the public. This year, we unveiled an interactive Budget Explorer with line item details so the public can actually go in, dive as deep as they're interested in various parts of the budget for information, and to provide us informed input on how we ought to move forward. Again, you'll see the link at the bottom of that takes you to those tools. So our prepared budget request, general fund budget, as I said, was $315,311,448 at a 52.9% tax rate. We're proposing an education increase in this budget of $3.4 million. Would make our proposed general fund budget $318,720,000 at a 53.9% tax rate. That is a flat tax rate. So it deals with both addressing departmental needs and a $4 million request from the school system in at a basically flat tax rate. Just some general highlights when you look at the FY19 general fund budget. The value of a penny is $3.7 million. As I noted the last time, and I'm acknowledging that there is a difference of $318,000 between the request the education system made and the value of a penny. We will continue to refine that number as we get final state budget numbers and final sales tax numbers. And to comply with our own policy, we're bringing you a recommended budget that maintains a 15% undesignated fund balance. It's about 2.5 months of operating for us. If you look at the comparison between last year's budget and this budget, I just want to highlight that you see the difference in revenues from $315 million to $311, and the difference in appropriated fund balance, that is a reduction in appropriated fund balance of $8.6 million, or almost 56%. And then you see the difference in expenditures. Some of that related, as I shared before, to some changes in the state level where child care subsidies don't run through our system anymore because of NC-FAST. But that's really a wash. There were both the expenditures and the revenues built into that, but they will show in both places. We do anticipate ending FY18 spending little to no fund balance. Here's the detail on the decrease in the appropriated fund balance comparing 18 to 19. And here's the impact of the education request. So again, the detail, if you look at the request with the education increase, again, where that would take us to a tax rate of 53.9 cents, appropriated fund balance of $6.8 million and an undesignated fund balance of 15%. If you look at the budget without that requested increase, we'd be at a tax rate of 52.9 cents, appropriated fund balance of $7.3 million, and again maintaining right at our current policy, 15% undesignated fund balance. Just to highlight quickly, as you know, under general statute, I'm required to bring you a balanced budget. And to make the point to you, if you look at the blues on the top around revenues, 77% of our revenues come from public funds, either property tax, sales tax, or intergovernmental monies that primarily we see show up in health and human services. The flip of that, if you look at the bottom of the screen in the oranges, you'll see that Correspondingly, the 73% of your expenditures are in the areas of human services, education, and public safety, areas where the General Assembly in North Carolina designates counties as the deliverers of those services. If you look at it on the next slide from a net county cost, I would point out to you that your largest net county investment in this area of public education at 32%, human services at 20%, public safety at 19%. I said last time and I'll say again, this is a really wordy and complex slide, and that is a nod to the General Assembly, who's giving you fairly wordy and complex instructions when it comes to public education. It goes from the very specific around facilities and furniture and apparatus to just a general that you'll expend local funds to address the needs of the school system. I'll point out to you in bold at the bottom because that's relevant to the recommendation I've made to you about not compromising our own fund balance policy. The General Assembly acknowledges you need to remain consistent with your own financial policies. Talk briefly about sales tax because most of what we're going to focus on tonight in the budget hearing relates to education in our fire districts where our tax base is important and very influenced by the economy. I think most everybody knows that when you go out and make a purchase, you pay 7% sales tax on every purchase. Of that really equates to 7 pennies on a dollar, and of that the Department of Revenue sends back to counties and cities 2.25 cents. And as you'll see on the next slide, that really gets distributed between our education systems, our fire districts, our municipalities, and then the county. And as you make decisions, and we've shared that data with you, we've shared the calculator with you around the tax rate requests for fire districts, it's with awareness it impacts our own sales tax revenues. It's the same pie, it just gets divided differently, and that's an important point that I want to make.
Ms. Stone, these graphics are online, aren't they?
They are,
Yes.
yes.
You've heard me talk about it. I really love this format. It's easy for just anybody to understand, especially me, so I appreciate it.
They are all online. Talk specifically about the Buncombe County school funding. As noted, the requested increase was at $3.2 million for FY19. That includes salary increases for local staff, impact on health insurance and retirement, some increased behavioral health services, textbooks, and graduation initiative, which was a total budget request of $65,730,649. We are proposing a total increase in funding of, as you'll see at the bottom of that slide, of $2,685,477. That is a reduction of $616,000 to preserve our fund balance policy. And as you'll see on the next slide, that gets split with the ADM with the city, but would impact the Buncombe County school request by $518,802. I think we missed one. On the city schools, again, the total with contingency would be an increase of $503,926, holding their impact based on their ADM share of us not funding the $616,000 that would impact our own fund balance policy is about $97,000. As I shared with you last time, because we are very focused on organizational risk and budgeting for the long term, we've seen substantial increase, significant increase in our general fund public school contribution, an increase of $20 million over the last 5 years. As I shared last time, that's relevant because it is pacing our growth, our increase in revenues, and it just means if that trend's going to continue, we have to think about the strategies to support it as we move forward as an organization. You see the average of those increases over that 5-year period, and obviously is just right under $4 million a year in increases. Same is true when you look at salary supplement. We got a public information request to go back on the history of when salary supplements got approved, and I wish I remembered the year. 1990s, 87, thank you, at 428,000 was where we began. And what we've seen over the last 5-year period is an increase in $6 million in terms of salary supplement. So again, what the recommendation to you is they'll hold $2.7 million for the school request in contingency until the state budget's finalized. We understand that total impact of the state budget, and we are certainly close to that point. And Dr. Baldwin's been very helpful in updating me on where that stands.
Ms. Stone,
Yes.
the increase in the teacher pay through the supplements, that's part of the overall increase in public school funding too. So it's not both those numbers together. The increase in teacher pay is part of that larger increase in public school funding.
Yes. What sits, at least if we'll flip to the next slide, historically Buncombe has not included this in the actual public school funding, but in addition to the dollars we just talked about, we are in FY19 proposing a county investment of $4.1 million that includes school resource officers, social workers, and school nurses. As you heard in the education work session, AB Tech requested an increase of $220,000, which would bring their total county funding to $6.5 million. That dealt with salary increases, some preventive maintenance, and utility rate increases was their specific request. You'll see the trend data for AB Tech's funding from the county from 2014 to the proposed 19 budget. We also passed a non-general fund budget, and that recommendation this year is $107,849,894. Those are all offset by other supporting revenues and transfers, and the list of those you'll see on your screen. One of those you're going to hear more about in a bit. So what this budget delivers is it addresses the majority of education's requests. It maintains quality county services. It addresses county service needs. It fulfills our commitment to post-retirement liability required for us, whether that's our credit rating or expectations from local government commission. It strengthens our capital infrastructure. It restores fleet management funding, so an ongoing account that supports ensuring our fleet is safe and we can update it on a regular basis. Continues to address salaries for the lowest paid employees. On a more project-specific level, continues your investment in affordable housing, both some large projects like the Walker Heights, and the completion of Eagle Market, as well as your ongoing support to affordable housing initiatives. It does include funding for greenways and trails, and I want to talk about those. You are scheduled in August to hear more detailed presentations on these, but it includes a wood fence project where the total community investment is $13.9 million, and the county would invest $1 million over 4 years. The Inca Trail, where the total county investment over 4 years is $1.2 million, and the total project is $13 million, and the Black Mountain Greenway, where we would invest $400,000 over a 3-year period for a total project of $2.8 million. So we want you to see, and we'll be bringing to you in August, the details of each of those projects and the community impact of all of them. And we are proposing to you in this budget that securing the funds for our match, and we're largely doing that for maximizing our ongoing Greenway Maintenance Fund, but designating it for projects. We address long overdue updates to the Lake Julian Playground and the dock, which are safety issues. And we really are trying to say in this budget, when you think about our parks that we own and are responsible for, that's just basic infrastructure to ensure they're safe for the public. Includes the East Asheville Library and substantial renovations to the Inca Library. Includes your community investment grants and your continuing to fund your strategic priorities. We, throughout this budget process in the last year, as well, have been very focused on what are the risks we face as an organization and what strategies can we implement to mitigate those risks. As you know, we're in the process of doing a salary study, and we'll have to identify strategies to address that. Like all organizations, we struggle with rising healthcare costs and ways we manage those. Delayed debt and capital needs. We know, and you're going to hear later tonight about strategies to manage our jail population, but that's always on our radar. We have new department heads across the organization, and with that comes both opportunity, new ideas, and creativity, but it also requires training and support and increased infrastructure. We're always watching for any indication of slowing of growth. We've lived on growth, and we're really watching that. Always have to watch in the General Assembly specifically requirements that they shift to counties and/or redistribution of sales tax. As you saw earlier, that's really significant funding for us. From a mitigation standpoint, this year we rolled out what's been in the works for 3 years, a new financial software system that has increased accountability and transparency built into it. We've also increased our public transparency and communication. We've clarified our roles, and I talked about that last time. We've built out and will continue to build out our performance management model, and we've increased not only our internal audit capacity, but we've built autonomy into that infrastructure. As we move forward into the next year, we're focused and disciplined and are driven by looking at how do we make sure the changes we've made in the last year get solidified and actually are a part of our culture and infrastructure. We will be rolling out this summer an online checkbook to provide even increased transparency to the public. We will be rolling out next year a recommended participatory budget process that engages the public even more throughout the year in the budget process. And we have budgeted to purchase an open government platform that allows citizens to participate in our processes even when they can't come to meetings. We are updating the county strategic plan. And we are asking you as we move forward with focus and discipline to remember that as you receive one-time revenues, they need to either reduce debt or go into fund balance. But you can't fund ongoing reoccurring expenses with one-time revenues. I want to talk about, because education and fire districts are the two things that I think the public probably will weigh in on. Again, we talked about this before, but I feel like for me, one of the most important things we've done in the last year is clarify our roles. The public elects you to set policy, set tax rate, and determine the budget. You know, management's responsibility is to deliver those services the most efficient and effective way we can. And we have to rely on the experts in our community, and depending on the area we're discussing, and when you're talking fire districts, that's your fire chiefs and how we move forward. Why it matters to us to address long-term strategies around fire districts is their frontline protection for all of us. Very public, lots of media attention on at least two departments who face financial challenges in the last year. And we want to have long-term strategies, sustainable strategies to address that. You've held multiple work sessions on this issue to hear from chiefs and better educate yourselves, better educate staff about their operations and the risks they face. What's in this budget are requests from 12 of your 20 districts for tax rate increases. That total increase would be $2.7 million. You have focused on your attention into seeing fire districts able to pay their firefighters at least in line with the average across North Carolina. You also have some districts requesting increases to support capital and reserves. People, the public can go online, click on this link and see the detailed requests from every district. This page really shows you the 17 rate, 18 rate, and requested 19 rate for the 12 of 20 districts who have asked for an increase. The range of increases, as we talked about before, are from 0.08 to 5.5. In addition to the rate increase, you have to consider what the value of that is in these individual districts, the value on a penny. You have a request for 4 cents that's equates to almost 145,000, and a request of 1 cent that's close to $500,000. So it really does matter what the value is in those districts. It's important as you consider these rate increases and weigh out decisions to understand that last year, this does not include all the fire districts, but only the 12 that are have made rate increases, that they did not go revenue neutral. They remained above revenue neutral tax rate last year, and this tells you that that was 1.3, almost 1.4 million increased revenues to those 12 districts. We also think it's important for you to look at what are their operating ratios. So simply put, around those 12 departments is how do their revenues equate to their expenditures. If you see a 1 or greater, that means they have more revenue than expenditures, and those rates are up for you to weigh out as you hear from fire districts and move forward in your decision making. When we look at what reserves to our districts need, we know that's a very complex issue, and we want to spend the next year better understanding it. How do we right-size that? It seems, I don't want to oversimplify it, and I encourage you, I know you spent a lot of time on this issue, to understand we have to strike a balance between having, just like for us, having enough reserves, but not holding on to the public's money if we don't need to. Fire district reserves are really complicated. You have to look at the size of the organization. You have to look at the volatility of the revenues. You have to look at tax burden on constituents. And you have to look at how each of them does capital planning in their financial strategies. It's one of those areas we feel like over the next year, there's the opportunity for more consistency and transparency. County support as we move forward is we've already talked to the board and will move to providing cash flow support to our departments. So they will receive their revenues in equal payments across the 12 months in the year. We are updating the service agreements. There's about $29 million of public funds involved in this, and as we have moved through the last year, we want to make sure anytime we're expending public funds, there's transparency, there's accountability. So in our service agreements, we're providing more financial capital and personnel benchmarks. We're offering training to fire district staff and boards. We're asking to work collectively with the chiefs about are there ways to assess consolidation of back office supports and achieve efficiencies that might allow them to invest more money in the direct service delivery. We're assessing, are there ways we could help with combined insurance pools? We heard from all of them, and you heard in your January work session, they are challenged by the cost of health insurance. And the data is staggering about the health risk our firefighters face. So we want to make sure that there's adequate health insurance for all of them, and that it's as affordable as it can be. And how do we make sure this system's sustainable in the long term? I will tell you, even since we did this work and have had the work sessions, that our fire chiefs as well as the county have been notified that while they had exemptions to some of the Fair Labor Standard Act's requirements around overtime in the past, that our nonprofit providers will not moving forward. This is a real challenge for them financially. So to remind the public and to remind you that all of the following materials listed on your screen are available to them online and have been available to them since a week before the May 15th budget hearing. We continue to invite public input. You can do that through the Let's Talk hotline. You can do it through either email us at Let's Talk, or you can do it email us at Budget. Either one of those. Certainly tonight is an opportunity, and I would say for our commissioners and staff, that every day between now and when you vote on the budget is an opportunity. And I'm happy to answer questions before you move into the public hearing.
So with the fire districts, as we've learned, with the schools, we can use money, but they don't always use it as our intention is. If we approve some of the increases, because my intention would only be to increase firefighter pay, we don't have any control whether they'll really do that or not.
You asked them for specific plans that address that, and they provided those to you. It is true that their revenues would come to them directly, and it would be us asking for them to account for that after receiving those revenues.
But there aren't any guarantees.
You know, I feel like we enter a relationship with them as we've entered a relationship with other partners where it's about trust and respect, about what our individual roles are, and that's the kind of framework we're trying to move forward from. Other questions?
Sir. Feel free.
I was going to put a PowerPoint up tonight. It's a year old, but I'm not going to do it because what we just said here and heard from Ms. Stone pretty well put it out there. It's been pretty tough on our staff for 1 year. We had a manager that wasn't here half the time. But Mandy Stone has been sitting here, not been on a plane, been in Buncombe County for 1 year. I think she's been out of town one day and she left at 4 in the morning. And she got back in here that afternoon. She had a meeting at 9 o'clock to 12:30 and she was back here at 5 in the afternoon. I'm really tired of people saying that bringing Miss Stone to where she's at was a bad deal. It wasn't. She basically put forward a minute ago what I was going to say in a PowerPoint, or it is a PowerPoint. It's, you know, the wool was pulled over our eyes a year ago by Ms. Green. And the fact is, I'm proud to have this lady run this show. Do we agree on everything? No. But you saw what she has done to our budget. She's pulled numbers down. She's pulled $8 million here. She's done this. She's made sure the people that didn't get that 1.5% in the money, at Christmas they got $500, plus they got the incentive of 1.5% to people from $45,000 down that did not get it before. So I know it's not the total budget now, and I was going to do this earlier, but I was going to bring it forward, and I was going to bring it on paper. And it was a 1-year-old piece of paper that I had to do last year that I was gonna bring forward. And what she just showed you tonight, I can't do that. I may show it to you later, but I can't do it tonight because it's just tough. These people, it's like she said, we have a lot of new staff. She's had to shift, she's had to move, she's had to take money in certain areas, and certain people leaving it, you know, it's just not, it's not anybody's fault. But everybody had a trust in a person, everybody, including myself and the people here on this board. It didn't work out. But we have trust now. I have the trust, and hopefully the rest of the board goes with me. And Ms. Stone's going to guide this county in the best way that she can. I'm tired of hearing it from John Boyle. I'm tired of hearing it from anybody in the paper that, you know, just promoting her and not going outside. If we'd have went outside, people, I'm going to tell you what, we wouldn't be where we are today. Because there's nobody to sit here and put up with what she's had to put up with for 1 year. And it's been bad. So, I just want to thank her for what she's done. I want to thank the staff for what they've done. Are we always going to agree? No. But right now, what I saw tonight, and you saw tonight, is what she's trying to do from schools, fire departments, police departments, and to try to save money. And we listen. I do. So, thank you, Ms. Stone, for what you did.
Commissioner Fryer, you and I don't always agree on things. That might be an understatement at times, but I want to thank you for your remarks. And Mandy Stone inherited a mess, a horrible, horrible mess. And I was reflecting back this time we're going to hear a presentation about the Justice Resource Center. This time last year, the past manager was doing everything under the sun she could to stop the Justice Resource Center. And so the work that they've done against a lot of adversity and against somebody putting stumbling blocks every step of the way, it's a miracle. I think it started in August, so I applaud the staff that took over and started digging us out and creating the amazing changes that we've made. And I support you. Like prior, we don't always agree on, but on this, I do. And it's mind-boggling what happened.
Ms. Stone, any other information at this time, or should we open the public hearing? Okay, thank you very much. Great. All right, we will open the public hearing on the proposed FY19 budget. Just to make sure everyone's clear, we're not voting on the budget this evening. We anticipate voting on this at our next regular county commission meeting in 2 weeks from today. All right, we'll begin, and I'll start over on this side, and Mr. Hunt, and we'll work our way this way. We're opening the hearing at 6:31.
My name is Mark Hunt, Friends of Woodfin, Greenway, and Blueway. We work in partnership with the town of Woodfin to advance the Greenway and Blueway project there. And Ms. Stone, thank you so much for the overview you provided about the proposed funding commitments that Buncombe County would be making to the Black Mountain Project, Inca Project, Woodfin Project. I'll highlight that there are a lot of people that have worked hard to develop funding partnerships. Combine these projects are $40 million. The county's commitment equals 7.5%, and there are many other players at the table co-funding these projects. I'm not here to ask for any more money. The budget, as Ms. Stone laid out, includes funding for the upcoming year. I am here to suggest a bit more clarity and transparency in terms of these specific projects. The budget documents that are available online include various amounts in different pockets, mostly within the operating budget, mostly within a line item called Greenway's contingency. I was unable to find references in the budget documents to the Woodfin project or the Inca project. And our suggestion would be that within the next 2 weeks, by the time the vote would take place, that the budget documents be updated to reflect the specific commitments. And just to be clear, I think what I heard Ms. Stone say, and I believe the intent of the majority of the commissioners is that with the Woodfin project, a $1 million target over 4 years, so it'd be $250,000 a year. The Inca project, $1.2 million. I believe that may be only over 3 years. There was some discussion earlier today. Black Mountain project, $400,000 over 4 years. So the amounts are spread over those years. And the important reason for being clear about what the commitments by project and by year are, the other funders at the table are looking to the county for a firm commitment in the budget document voted on by this commission so that they will know that the similar commitments they are making are backed as well by others at the table. The other funders had already had board votes in most cases and made their commitments. So we asked for improved transparency and clarity in the budget that is voted on 2 weeks from now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, sir. In the second row.
Commissioners, my name is Ken Michael Love, and I'm a resident of the county and the city. Page 2 of the budget summary allocates $175,000 to Pack Place Cultural Partnership. The comment is transfer from strategic partnership grants. In reality, this is nothing more than funding a portion of building operations of a city building formerly known as Pack Place for the primary benefit of the Asheville Art Museum and the Diane Oracle Theater. I don't know if there's any other funding for Pack Place Art Museum or the Art Museum in this budget, but if there is, I'd focus on that too. Last time I looked at the lease agreement between the city and the building occupants, the lease had not been signed and there was no agreement on how the building would be operated on a day-to-day basis. I'm not aware the county is a party to that lease. I recommend that you as commissioners have the lease reviewed by your attorney and that you receive a report from your attorney on the day-to-day operations of the building as it pertains to the lease to assure yourself that the lease requirements have been fully implemented. The building is owned by the city of Asheville after being illegally taken by the city from the Pack Place Board. The city manipulated with the help of the Art Museum the demise of Pack Place and pressured the untimely move of the Colbert Museum out of the building. There's no justification for the county to fund a city building operations. The city, the county, and the TDA have given millions to support the Art Museum over the past 15 years. The Art Museum has an endowment. They have all the capital funds they need, and it's time the county stop the funding of the Art Museum. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Matthew Malsby. I'm the board president for the Asheville Museum of Science, formerly the Colburn Science Museum. So, Mr. Michael Love, I couldn't have asked for a better intro. But today, I really am just here to say thank you to the county. You've been a great strategic partner for us up until this point. And really, I just ask that you consider and put some good thought into our multi-year ask for operational support. So, again, thank you. We appreciate all that you've done so far. We look forward to being a good partner with you going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Rice and then Mr. Yelton.
I just want to say, Mr. Chairman, board members. I'm an advocate for special needs kids. Here's my little document of pet stickers that shows you I've been in a lot of schools. And well educated on it. I want to talk to you today about a specific item in your budget, and that is supplements for the teacher. And I'm going to preface my first statement. To be politically correct is not being financially responsible. I've asked for the salary supplement policy or ordinance that the county commissioners have had, yet I have yet to receive it, my third time. That was not 1987, that was 1977, the year that my son was born. Now, that is not a policy, and it's not an ordinance. It's within the current expense. Giving $20 million over a 5-year period in the current expense is not being financially responsible. It is being politically correct, though. This is a local Buncombe County Commission problem that needs corrected before this budget is passed. The taxpayers have given $20 million in the last 5 years, and in two school systems are sitting on $20.2 million. The $20 million you're talking about, you gave it to them over 5 years. We're talking about the $20.2 million in their fund balance. The teacher union has went down to Raleigh, and they've advocated for money, they've advocated for a lot of things, plus number one was their salary. Let me remind you, the salary supplement is not tied to anything except you commissioners. This is not a requirement by the state, and neither the state has no business in it. What you have been doing for years, you have bankrolled the school system in their fund balance. That's the reason they got the 20.2 when the old teachers retired. The money folded back in and you just sat on it. And that's the reason you do not have a policy in place to account for this money, or you would have had financially responsibility instead of your political correctness. Votes by the school system is 7-1. That's the reason the money is going out of here. If Miss Green can be got for several $1 million, I think it's criminal for a bunch of commissioners not to be financially responsible on this fund balance. I'm not talking about not giving the teachers what they need. I'm talking about having a policy. And 3 minutes ain't long enough. I'll finish up in public comment.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill.
Well, I'm going to go in reverse order, shake things up a little bit. I agree with you, Mike. You heard me say the first time when Mandy was appointed county manager. Many, many years ago, in social services, I asked her what the budget was, and she was able to give me a complete list. What came from the state, what came from the Fed, what came from the county, and that was a good mark. So I'm going to start at the end of your presentation. First, I must want to sing praises because now we got a date on when the checkbook's going to be online. And I've been preaching for that for probably 15 years. See, there's one thing. You may not like what I say, and I really don't care, because at 70 you get pretty crotchety anyway. But I think solution. And the solution for your problem that Ellen pointed out with your fire departments, with the educational system, and you ought to think about doing this policy. Any non-profit that gets tax dollars must open their complete books to this board. Think about what I just said. That way you'll find out if the money's going where it's supposed to be going. I'm still looking for cost per library, and I think that will help, because the man from Woodford just pointed that out today about a line item budget for their project. You know where the money's going, then you've got, and that's a nonprofit. you gotta know where it's going. You gotta know it before you give it to them. That solves all the problem. But the most important thing, and the last thing I heard presentation, was lower the debt. If you get more money this year, and you don't operate with the same amount of money next year, and you don't lower the debt, I'm not going to be for any of you, except whoever votes to not lower the debt, and I'm going to be after you for the rest of my life. Because when it comes to affordable housing, it comes to anything you do. When I walked in today, I knew it was money day, because everybody's here. On a regular meeting, there's more people up here than there are right here. So the bottom line is, you really and truthfully need to think about, when you make affordable housing available, when you help people, you're taking it from somebody else. And I think you need to think about that. You did address that. But there's some of us locals born and raised here. And we work hard to stay here. And we work hard to live here. I used to have a coal stove in the living room and a wood stove in the kitchen. And I had to go to an outhouse, and it was cold in the wintertime. You could get up and see where I've been sitting.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hi, Greg Bourne, Children First Communities and Schools in Buncombe County. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I wanted to first start off saying thank you to this County Commission for prioritizing housing affordability and early childhood education. Those are two big issues that we focus a lot on, and it does me good to see such support coming from this commission. I want to talk about our recommendation that I've shared with you all by email and maybe from other of our partners in the community about increasing funding for housing, the county's housing trust fund. And we've put out this idea of trying to help move the county to put about a penny for the $100 of property tax value into the county's trust fund, ramping that up over the next few years. And let me say a bit about why we think that's so important. First of all, I want to thank you and recognize the county for all of the funding you've currently given to housing affordability projects like through Walker Heights, like the Evelyn Teacher Housing. These are critical projects in our community, and you've understood that, and you really stepped up and made those investments. But the County Housing Trust Fund gives you a unique opportunity to really control the funds that go into future projects, and really to set the tone in this community that the county is going to be in this game for the long term. It's a signal to developers, whether our private developers or nonprofit developers, that there's going to be funds there for projects that they might want to consider developing. This is a successful model that's been used in municipalities and counties around the country, and the city of Asheville has had great success with theirs as well. What you heard at the work session on housing affordability, too, was that there's a lot of opportunity in this community to draw down the 4% low-income housing tax credits by developers. But those usually need additional financing coming in. We think that a robust county housing trust fund can really help in that space, and hope that you'll consider looking at ways that you can increase the funding in that and grow it over time. We know you're under a lot of constraints. It's an economic development tool. It's what we need for an affordable community. Thanks again for your support of housing affordability.
All right, thank you. All right, last chance for now. Okay, thank you all for your input. We'll close the public hearing on the budget, and again, we plan to vote on the budget in 2 weeks from today. And Commission, I think there's going to take a short recess. We're taking a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
There's something going on. That attorney and the chairman is swapping seats and going out and back in and working on that. That ain't normal. There's something going
And you need. Yeah, you must get to know it. Well, good, I'm glad to know that. Well, be sure you get your money before you leave. Go for it, tell her. Don't tell me, you know, she's in your book. Did you have to have an outhouse too, or you went up to the little daddy and stuff? When it's frosty. I got a good deal. Yeah. No, you're good about you're on your own. The outhouse we had no kidding. Remember that CC camp at Buncombe? That community center up there was CC. And that guy from City Baptist said, after been successful, what the hell they been successful with?
I'll tell you. There's something going on about that, or one of them went out of your name, and they're doing what? Right there, with somebody's attorney, and they back in and you never know. There's something going on.
Well, we ain't probably gonna eventually drive.
Speak, I'd like to stop forward.
Ain't no problem.
I know you are trying to get open now. Okay. You just reach out.
Nope, it's not.
Hey,
You better watch your shaking.
I know, I'm scared to be back
You
here.
better.
I just got some space.
I was gonna say, I know you didn't get all the way through.
Well, I just do mine off the cuff.
But you know what? That policy they're referring to, no, they're referring to 1787. But that ain't even the beginning of it. The beginning of it is on the Christmas bonus. Okay?
Started the Christmas bonus, and about 10 years ago, Sue Scoop, that's a sucker.
Yeah.
Everything.
I ain't through yet. I won't get through this. I'll get through it.
Everybody gets money.
Hey.
School says Ralph, you should let them know where to go. Something's broke loose. What did he do for the rest? I hope it's whole mass of them. God, shoot fire. Get away from here. Go, you need to get away. So you're getting used to it.
Well. Just for today, no heckling.
What? Guess what? She made the first step to hit her budget. No.
They got some good candy up there. I seen Mike Fryer chewing and Bob and Belton too. Hope they get us some. For years. Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody, we're gonna resume.
How did you lie?
All right. And the next item on our agenda, county manager's report. We have 2 items under the manager's report. The first is the safe sharps disposal, and Dr. Mullendor will head up this presentation along with others. Be a team effort.
Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. So as we all know, the ongoing opioid and injection drug use epidemic has raised significant public health concerns, including those about overdose deaths, communicable diseases, and unsafe needle disposal. We have heard stories in these meetings, and many of us have stories of our own about seeing used syringes on the ground in our community, or clogging up toilets in public housing complexes, or of employees at local businesses or sanitation workers suffering from needle stick injuries from syringes that were thrown into regular trash cans. And I think it's important for us to remember that syringes are used by a wide swath of our population. People use them to inject substances that are illicit, like heroin and other opioids, methamphetamine, but we also have many medications these days that are injected, from the long-standing insulin as well as many rheumatologic and autoimmune medications. And so we need to recognize that there is an increase in the use of syringes by many people in our community, and that we need to make easy access to disposal a priority. And so Buncombe County is starting to explore, or continuing to explore, opportunities to make safe needle disposal more accessible to residents. So working on increasing public awareness about what safe disposal of sharps is, to invest in community organizations that are engaged in trash pickup, to provide them with tools and training to ensure that they're safe, and working with solid waste department, whenever Dane is back there, working with the solid waste department to increase the availability of sharps disposal units throughout the county in public locations. So Dane is working on finalizing expansion of household sharps disposal access points in the county to include the landfill, as well as the sole site currently, which is at the transfer station. So I think that we have great opportunities to make it even more accessible to people in our community. With regards to communicable diseases that are potentially related to injection drug use, this is a graph from North Carolina Local Health Director Region 2. And so that includes Buncombe, but also Avery, Burke, Caldwell, Henderson, Madison, McDowell, Mitchell, Polk, Rutherford, and Yancey counties. And so this is looking at acute hepatitis B confirmed cases from 2012 to 2016. And we can see the significant rise in acute hepatitis B over these years in this region. Recently, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services reported that from 2012 to 2016, newly diagnosed cases of hepatitis B in the state increased by 62%, and newly diagnosed cases of hepatitis C increased by 200%. In North Carolina as a whole, acute hepatitis B virus exposure through injection drug use has also been increasing since 2014. And the highest rates of acute hepatitis B in North Carolina were among residents in Western North Carolina. This graph shows, again, Region 2. This is looking at acute hepatitis C confirmed cases, and you can again see the increase from 2012. The most frequently reported risk factor by people with acute hepatitis C virus infection is injection drug use. And we know that acute hep C exposure through injection drug use has been increasing since 2013, and again, the highest rates of acute hepatitis C in the state are being seen in Western North Carolina residents. We know that hepatitis B and C are very hardy viruses and can live for days to weeks outside of the body. And we know that they're very highly infectious. I think when people think about injection drug use or a needle stick injury, they first get worried about HIV, which is fine and appropriate, but hepatitis B is 100 times as infectious as HIV, and hepatitis C is 10 times as infectious. So we know these things are very easily transmitted through injection drug use. For HIV, again, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services reported that in 2017, there was a 22% increase in newly reported HIV cases in Western North Carolina compared to the prior 3-year average, and the increase in the proportion of people with HIV reporting injection drug use as their risk factor. And there is a high rate of co-infection. So people with HIV aren't just infected with HIV, they're often infected with hepatitis B and potentially even hepatitis C. And the CDC has recognized that Western North Carolina is vulnerable to an outbreak of HIV, similar to that was seen in Scott County, Indiana several years ago, small rural community, high rates of poverty and unemployment. And so people were sharing their injection drug use equipment in a county that saw very few cases of HIV a year, had an exponential increase to over 100 cases in a year. And so the state has been very highly focused on Western North Carolina. They were out here recently exploring and investigating a network of injection drug users in the western part of the state where they were seeing an increase in HIV and hepatitis cases. And then something that isn't necessarily a reportable disease to public health, but are things that we know, we're hearing from Mission Hospital, that they're seeing increases in infectious endocarditis, so infection of the heart valves, related to injection drug use, a very costly treatment, weeks of intravenous antibiotics for this, which again is a burden on not just the individual suffering from that, but our entire healthcare system and community. And so just looking at taking that data down to our local level, this is data from Buncombe County, our acute hepatitis B cases. 2017 data is not yet finalized, it's supposed to get finalized by the state this week. But you can see that over the past 4 years, we have had cases of acute hepatitis B that are associated with injection drug use, hepatitis C as well, and then HIV, not as much in our area, but we have had cases associated with injection drug use. Something that people don't necessarily think about with injection drug use is invasive group A strep. So group A strep is the strep that causes strep throat, but it gets in the wrong part of your body. So if it gets into your skin or soft tissue, it gets into your bloodstream, this is what causes what is commonly known as flesh-eating bacteria, right? It's that type of infection. And so we have seen that several of our cases last year were associated with injection drug use. Not necessarily something that is on the tool, the investigating tool for our public health nurses, but we have some very wise public health nurses, and so they've asked the questions and found this, and so the state's actually going to add this to their screening tool in the future. And so a public health approach to reducing the spread of communicable diseases through injection drug use is harm reduction. And harm reduction strategies are all about reducing the harmful consequences of drug use and other high-risk behaviors. And they operate on a spectrum of safer use to managed use to abstinence, right? We know, I know in my clinic work that it's really hard to go in and talk to somebody who's a smoker or who's engaging in sexual activity to go and get them to become abstinent all of a sudden, right? That's not my reality. And it's the same way with drug use. And so we employ harm reduction strategies routinely. Medication-assisted treatment, which at the opioid town halls you've talked about or heard about, medication-assisted treatment with methadone or buprenorphine. Condoms are a harm reduction strategy, right, to make sex safer. Nicotine replacement therapy is a harm reduction strategy for smoking cessation. So we employ these methods routinely to help people reduce the harmful consequences of high-risk activities. And harm reduction strategies for safer drug use recognize that people use drugs for a variety of complex reasons, and they seek to meet people where they are in order to address both the reasons for their use and the drug use itself. And it provides an opportunity to engage and establish trust with a sometimes very hard to reach, stigmatized, marginalized population. And the hope is that the relationships that are built will lead to folks getting into care and treatment for their medical conditions, which include their addiction. And so this is a graphic from the CDC. I think you guys may have a copy in front of you. This is what they look at as like the ideal components of a syringe exchange program. And just to give a little background on the law, so on July 11, 2016, North Carolina law allowed for the legal establishment of syringe exchange programs run by governmental and non-governmental organizations in the state. And the law requires free access to syringes and injection supplies and sufficient quantities to prevent sharing or reusing of supplies. They require distribution of educational materials about disease transmission and overdose and addiction, consultations or referrals for mental health treatment and substance use disorder, and naloxone training and distribution or referral for distribution, and then secure disposal of the used syringes and injection supplies. And in the 2016 law, there was a specific prohibition of the use of public funds to purchase syringes and injection supplies. And then last year, with the passage of the STOP Act, that included language that would allow local funds, but still not state funds, to be used for purchasing the syringe exchange supplies. And the North Carolina Communicable Disease Branch of the Division of Public Health has really sought to integrate syringe exchange programs into other programs that have shared goals of prevention and treatment and care for HIV and viral hepatitis and sexually transmitted infections. And so when I look at this graphic and I think about our clinic, we do a lot of this already. So we clearly provide hepatitis A and B vaccination. We provide testing for HIV and hepatitis and link people to treatment and care. We offer the tools to prevent HIV and hepatitis through education and counseling, through provision of condoms. We do post-exposure prophylaxis currently for HIV. We screen people for substance use disorder and try to link them to care. We screen for mental health services and try to link them to care. So the things that we don't currently do are, we don't provide naloxone for overdose prevention. We don't necessarily advertise safe disposal of needles and syringes. Clearly, if somebody brought in something they wanted to dispose of, we could take it and put it in our sharps containers. And we clearly don't do provision of syringe injection supplies. But we would like to take this opportunity, especially as we move forward or move back to our clinic's location at 40 Cox Avenue to look at expanding our services to include these things, as well as to include pre-exposure prophylaxis for HIV for high-risk individuals. And then potentially even considering having a peer support specialist available either on call or in the clinic to be able to engage people who are ready. This slide is to show that syringe exchange is mentioned as part of the state's opioid response. This is from a presentation given by the section chief of the Chronic Disease and Injury section of NC Division of Public Health, and it talks about how syringe exchange is a way to engage people who are already caring about their health and to get them connected and to care for their addiction. This is a map current as of April 30th of this year that shows the counties that currently are served by syringe exchange programs. This is showing that there are 29 active syringe exchange programs that cover 34 counties. I would say that we know that at least one of our syringe exchange programs locally, and probably both, definitely see people coming from other counties, surrounding counties, to get services. So I'm sure more counties are served by syringe exchange programs, but even though they might not have syringe exchange programs localized within their county. And so locally, we do have two syringe exchange programs. The needle exchange program of Asheville, which is run out of WinCap, is located in their office on Fairview Road in Oakley. And They've been around for decades. Michael Harney, who's here, started this back in the mid-90s, if I'm not mistaken. And they were last year dispensed over 500,000 needles to people from 32 counties and 4 states. And then we have Steady Collective, which operates out of 2 locations, Haywood Street Congregation and Firestorm Cafe, Books and Cafe, out in West Asheville. And in 2017, they averaged 7.5 hours of outreach a week and distributed 73,000 new syringes. And they are currently receiving some funding from the county. And I want to acknowledge the staff of NEPA and Steady who are here tonight, because we know some of them are here, so if you could raise a stand or do something to recognize yourselves. These existing syringe exchange programs have worked really hard for years, and in the case of NEPA for decades, to protect individual and public health in our community. And we in public health are very grateful for their service and dedication. And commitment to an often, like we mentioned, often stigmatized and marginalized population. And I truly believe that without their services, the numbers of hepatitis and HIV cases in our county would be much higher. I think that they have helped shield many people from those infections. And so our next steps at this point are to continue to collaborate with the needle exchange program in Bashville and Steady to identify areas of unmet need for syringe exchange and harm reduction in our county. Something that has surfaced in some conversations thus far is the need in our community for a mobile unit that would get out to outlying areas of our county where people are unable to come into to get services. And so that's something that has come up that we'd like to explore. And then we would also want to learn from the North Carolina health departments that have syringe exchange programs currently. So there are 3 counties, Orange County, Wilson County, and Cabarrus, where their health departments have syringe exchange programs. And so I've connected with all of them, and I'm trying to learn from them about what type of model they use and what's worked, what hasn't worked. But we need to recognize that people who use drugs may not be comfortable coming into a government agency and willingly talking about their drug use. I mean, we ask those questions of clients currently in our clinic, but they're coming to us for other services. And so we anticipate that hesitation will be there, and especially at 40 Cox Avenue, where we have deputies present in the lobby. We know that is a potential concern that may be a deterrent to people coming to us. So I just think we need to recognize that. I think we need to continue to support the existing syringe exchange programs. There's no way that a clinic-based syringe exchange program would ever be able to meet the demand that they have met so well over the past many years. I think that there are different populations that are served by the different programs and different opportunities, and so I don't want to take away from what greatness they've been able to accomplish in our community. And so based on all that information, we'd like to design a clinic-based syringe exchange program for our health department, Health and Human Services, and consider another access point for the community. And then going back to what I started out with, we really want to focus on educating the public about safe sharps disposal and make it easier for people to safely dispose of their sharps throughout the county. So if you have any questions, we have experts in the room clearly, but I thank you for your time.
Great, thank you very much.
I've got a comment on this. I think that, people can be torn with this issue. And so, for me, personally, and there's quite a few that think the way that I do, I think, that, I don't think anybody's really interested in promoting bad behavior when it gets down to it. I'm not. But I do support saving lives. It is and should be a goal of this county to compassionately reach out. I do think that abstinence can be a reality with compassionate counsel and family and faith support. I do think that all of these things can work together to achieve the goals that I believe that you're after. And I thank you for your presentation, and I thank those that have passionately came in and presented many, many times for this and listened to our advice to come in and do it. It is something that people are torn, with their deep beliefs. And but if we can save lives in Buncombe County, then that gives those that believe in outreach for faith and opportunities to exercise that. And I see this as something that gives that opportunity. And for me, I thank you for coming and presenting.
I want to thank you too, Ed and Michael. We know now that heroin is a whole different ballgame than it was rain. We intentionally goes down this path. If somebody had cancer, we would never ever think of not giving them treatment. And addiction, it's not a choice. People become addicted. We know now that 8 out of 10 people that are addicted to heroin start with legal prescriptions. So I think this is just one part of what we can do in our community, but nobody wants to be addicted to heroin. Nobody wants to be at this needle exchange. Nobody. That's not a good day for somebody. And the awareness and education that can come out of it, and hopefully treatment, would be incredible.
I want to mention something else. As a young man that I knew, still know, thank goodness, that since he was a young man, he attended our church, and because of some of the reasons that you discussed, who was around where he lived, his economic impact upon his household, whatever the reason, he ended up in the hospital, and they were cleaning out his heart. He was in his 20s, and I went to see him. And there's only one thing on your mind when you go to see someone that's in that condition. It is not how they got there. It is not how they got there. It is to fix it and to keep that person from getting back in that situation again. And I think every commissioner up here, believes that, supports that, but it touches everyone in the community. So there's nobody that's sitting on a high horse when we talk about this. You know somebody, either close to you or in your family or your church family or where you work, and it's a big deal. So I didn't mean to talk so much, but there's a couple things on the heart. Figure I'd get them off. If I don't get rid of them, I explode and I got to deal with them in the back. So thank you for coming.
Just echo that to say thank you to you and community partners in the room and folks at Health and Human Services who worked really hard on this. The thoughtfulness of it and the compassion is really evident in the way you're approaching this process. And just to echo that, I do think it's important to talk about addiction and how many lives have been touched by it. My family certainly has. I think anyone who has struggled with addiction or has loved someone who has knows in a heartbreaking way what that can do to someone's life and to a family, but also what's possible. And that sometimes recovery starts with waking up one day and feeling ready to do one thing you weren't ready to do the day before. So the more I think our community can be creating openings like that and opportunities, and this slide that kind of maps out the array of services and supports, I think really demonstrates that. So thank you all for the work going into this and the partners as well.
I do have a couple of quick questions. So there's 34 counties across the state that have some type of syringe exchange program operating within the counties. 3 of those are operated from county facilities, and so I guess all the others are operated out of some type of private or nonprofit facilities. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the three counties that are doing some of the operations directly out of their own local government facilities, we said it was Orange County, and Cabarrus, and
Wilson.
And Wilson. Okay. And what are I mean, I'm curious, when you think about the you know, the local government facilities versus community, you know, private facilities. I certainly, you know, your comment that some folks are not going to come to a government facility, you know, it would naturally maybe be you know, oriented around going to a private facility within the community. When you think about the local government facilities, what are some of the, you know, the pros and cons of thinking about doing it directly from those facilities as well?
So when I think about our model at Health and Human Services, we always talk about being a one-stop shop, right? Where people come and get everything they need. And so I feel like that would fit into that model if you have that sort of robust agency like we will have when we move back to 40 Cox. I think it just fits, it's a public health, so it's just another public health service. I will say that I visited Orange County's health department, and they, it's small and it's not very convenient to get to, and they don't do a lot of syringe exchange there. It's pretty low volume, but it's a pretty open lobby, and they walk up to the check-in and the check-in person gives it. That's kind of the model there. They just ask for a bag and there's a bag given to them that's pretty much spelled out. Cabarrus County has a little different model, but again, it's like right off the lobby. It's more like yours. It's more like, here's your supplies, pick what you want. Wilson County, I'm still waiting to connect with, but I think they have it within their health department, and then they also partner with a nonprofit that goes out into the community and does maybe one local. So I can't say I've been necessarily blown away by the volume that any of these do at this point, and I think that may be because they're housed in a government agency.
Did those counties also have alternative locations as well?
Yes, some of those. I know that I don't know that Wilson does, but I feel that Cabarrus does and maybe Orange does. And so again, yeah, that may take off. They may be sharing burdens.
Okay, and but you feel like, you know, you're sort of looking at these gaps, what else can be done in the future, but based on the, you know, the process you've gone through so far, you feel like there's enough information to be clear that we should, you know, in addition to supporting the partnerships in the community, this is something that should be one place in the community where this is a resource.
I mean, we know that we see people who, because we ask if they use injection drugs, and so we know we're seeing people. And so right now we just give out information about NEPA and STEADY and encourage them to go, but it's that barrier, right? We're putting another barrier in front of them versus if we could just hand them the supply.
And what do you see as the timeline for that moving forward?
Well, I mean, we're not projected, I don't think, to move back to our 40 Cox building until February. Their current lease space is not, I would say, conducive at all to this. But I think that if we have these next several months to plan it, I would hope that we could initiate that upon entry back into 40 Cox.
All right. Well, I also just want to say thanks for the update. You know, I think as we've discussed before, we're just looking for different ways that we can try to make a positive difference on this. And I know that, you know, when this idea first, you know, started getting some more attention, thanks to some of the folks in the community who are really engaged on this issue. You know, it's something that's been, I think, you know, as Councilor Welch said, I mean, it's kind of been sort of a controversial idea, and probably still is in some regards, because, you know, it can be seen as sort of enabling this destructive behavior. But when we look at the status quo, and then, you know, we see that that not doing something creates its own additional worse problems in some ways. So I'm really supportive of what the county's doing in this arena, to both support partners who have been doing it for a long time, and then looking at what we can do. It should be doing in-house too. So I really appreciate the update. And,
I do want to say one other thing, and I do think that, and I know what you meant when you said it about abstinence not being a reality here, but for some people it can be, and it needs to be. And it is a journey that, as a county, that needs to be, as we look at these things, we need to be prepared to have those conversations, have those discussions, because ultimately we want to help an individual to reconnect with someone, whether it be family or faith or friends, to where that can become very much a reality for them. because ultimately, that should be the ultimate goal. And during that, then we have to deal with the difficult issues that we are now, but that should be part of our thought process, needs to be part of our thought process in order for this commissioner to really.
And I didn't mean to.
I know, I'm not.
We always talk, I mean, when we're talking about sex or smoking or whatever, it's just, that's not where, usually when I'm seeing them, that's not where they're
I
at.
understand. I know where you're at. I just want to make sure that was part of the discussion.
Always. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, next up is an update on the Justice Resource, and will tee us up.
I was going to see if the slides come up. Good evening again. Rachel Nygaard. I have the privilege of working as Director of Strategic Partnerships, and in that role get to work with those partners that are working to increase access to early care and education, to partner with our departments and community organizations on preventing and responding to opioid addiction and other topics like criminal justice. So this evening is to provide an update to you about some of the latest work that has been occurring related to criminal justice, and to share with you about an exciting grant opportunity that's before us. We have spent a lot of time over the last year together talking about issues related to criminal justice and justice resource support and coordination. To begin, just setting the stage as a reminder that this is one of the top policy items that this board has established, with the priority being to coordinate a justice system that is efficient, effective, equitable, protects our public safety, and holistically addresses the needs of people who are involved in the system. We approach that priority through a number of activities and goals that are listed here. As we know, Buncombe County has been a leader in this arena, as evidenced by a track record of building a really robust array of services. When you look at the national best practices around having trauma-informed justice systems, we have many of the best practices in place. Our commissioners have signed on to the Stepping Up initiative, which is focused on reducing the impact of mental illness and substance abuse disorders in our local detention facility. And we have services from front-end responses, partnering with law enforcement, to services within the jail, diversion programs, a very strong pretrial services program that provides risk assessment, evidence-based risk assessment and opportunity for supervised release, specialty courts, reentry services, and victim services. Over the last year, like I said, we've been working together pretty closely and intensely. Hired a Justice Resource Coordinator. Tiffany Hanicho is in the room this evening. It's hard to believe that she's been on board less than 12 months. We created a Justice Resource Advisory Council. That's that criminal justice steering committee made up of partners and stakeholders within the system that work together to launch their first initiative, which is the Justice Resource Center, which I'll talk about just a little bit in a second. We expanded our array of programs with the launch of that Justice Resource Center, including diversion, expungement, expedited release protocol to get prosecution services embedded within the jail. And we are on the map nationally with this work. There's a listing at the end of some of the latest initiatives that we've been connected with through national leading organizations, from the Sequential Intercept model to the Best Practices Academy, Stepping Up Day of Action, and the National Network of Criminal Justice Collaborating Councils, which was a competitive process, and we were recently invited to join. Our Justice Resource Center opened last October and has already served more than 600 people in the center, helping people get access to case management, to diversion services, career navigation and education opportunities, connection to benefits, reentry and expunction, really providing that place of opportunity for people who are involved in the justice system, no matter what place they are with their justice system involvement. We thank the commissioners for your investment in these services and thank those on-site partners that are there every day delivering services with dignity and care to those individuals. So ABTech, Fiscal Legal Services, RHA Health Services, and Sunrise Community for Recovery and Wellness are all on site. This evening we're here to talk about the Safety and Justice Challenge, which is supported by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. This is the national conversation. Here's what they have to say on the topic. The primary purpose of jails is to detain those awaiting trial who are a danger to public safety or a flight risk. Jailing someone who is neither results in huge costs for families and communities, resulting in lost income, parents separated from their children, untreated mental health and substance abuse problems, a greater risk of reoffending, and wasted taxpayer dollars. And so the MacArthur Foundation is setting out to work with jurisdictions across the country to rethink how we use jails. These are borrowed from the MacArthur Foundation materials and point out that jail admissions across the country are high in volume and have increased exponentially over the last couple of decades. And the thing to remember is that most of the people that are in jail, in our local jails, are at a state of their criminal justice involvement where they are legally presumed innocent. They're awaiting trial or resolution of their case through plea negotiation. Many of the people in our jails are there for nonviolent offenses, and we have hard realities to face related to the disparities in our jail and in jails across the country. More people with mental illness and substance abuse disorders are in jail than are represented in the general public. And African Americans are jailed nationally at almost 4 times the rate of white Americans. Our preliminary analysis of local data show that those disparities ring true here in our own community as well. Our own jail, operated by the Office of the Sheriff. Detention facility can house up to 604 individuals. Our average daily population sits at last month just over 500, which is when the jail starts getting full, based on how those housing units are organized and based on how classification works. We can house between 500 and 600 maximum individuals in the jail at any given time. We have the makeup of those that are in our jail. Again, just like nationally, we see that most people that are in the jail are there at a pretrial status, awaiting resolution of their case. We do house some sentenced individuals through the, say, short state sentences like the state misdemeanor confinement program. We also house for other jurisdictions through contracts like federal. And then the other category is a mix of various things, including the 10 or 15 people that are in the jail on any given day as a result of non-payment of civil non-support, non-payment, chronic non-payment of child support, and failure to appear in court around the issue. We monitor the trends in our jail and have seen a rise in that pretrial population, and particularly around the female population. We continue to assess data to understand who is in our detention facility, what the drivers are that lead them to be jailed. Of the 7,300 people roughly that were released from the jail over a year's time that was looked at in this analysis, I find this pretty staggering. Almost a third of those individuals had 3 or more releases in that year. Almost a third, 29%. You see they're listed, 10% had 5 or more releases in that time. So we know that we have work to do. The particular grant opportunity that we're discussing is related to, it's the Safety and Justice Challenge Grant. Buncombe County was a previous recipient. The Board of Commissioners approved the budget amendment. The use of those funds, it was a smaller grant, $50,000, that was funded in our trial services program on a specific project related to domestic violence protocol. As a result of our performance on that grant, and as a result of that strong track record that we are that we have, we've been invited to apply for the full implementation grant, which is up to $2 million over 2 years. This is a grant that requires system approaches. It requires collaboration from our partners at a level that, at a high intensity level, and has those same emphasis that we have locally around protecting safety and ensuring wellness. Our partners in the newly formed Justice Resource Advisory Council, many of whom are here this evening, and I thank them for their support and their leadership, are here. As a reminder, some of the places of strength that we're beginning from, we have a below average incarceration rate. The work that we've been doing for diversion over the past decades is working. We have slowed the growth and delayed the creation or delayed the need to build a new detention facility. We celebrate that, as well as many of these other items listed here that show the strength that Buncombe County has in criminal justice. We know that we have more work to do. We have growth in our jail population, rising numbers of women in jail. We have, when we look at the number of people that detox, that have a detox protocol while they are staying in our jail, whether that's for opioids or alcohol or anything, those numbers are severely rising. We have lengths of stay for nonviolent charges. We have people who cycle in and out of the jail. We have a lot of growth in our pretrial supervision. I want to make sure that we're using that smartly, not over-supervising people that don't need a lot of supervision in order to reappear in court and stay safe during their time. We want to make sure that we're using that supervision smartly for those who need it most. And then, like I said, we've got those disparities to face, and we have lack of public confidence in many of the areas within our criminal justice system that we would use this grant to address. Signing on to be a part of the Safety and Justice Challenge means committing to a jail population reduction of 15% or more. That is significant, given that we've been busy doing diversion and jail population reduction efforts for years. The 385 number is smaller than that 500 number that I had up on the screen earlier because it's based on a figure that removes those contract beds and removes the state sentence beds. And so 385 is their baseline, down by 15% or more means an average daily population of 58 fewer people in the jail on an average day. The Justice Resource Advisory Council, together with the staff support team, have been busy working over the past 5 weeks to develop strategies and activities within those strategies. Very many of those follow the conversation that we had with the Board of Commissioners when we met about the detention facility last fall. And we were charged by the board to find, are there any stones that we haven't turned over? Are there any strategies and efforts and reforms going on in other jurisdictions across the country that we haven't yet tried or fully maximized? And we have built a portfolio of strategies that we propose to the Safety and Justice Challenge. And when we submit our application to them, June 15th, that's next Friday, 10 days from now, we will include those with the support of the county and with the support of those justice resource partners. We anticipate that we will join a small number of jurisdictions. There are only 20 communities across the country that are part of this Safety and Justice Challenge at this time, to join them and continue our leadership across the country in criminal justice. Regardless of the outcome of that grant, we are here with you and with the support of our partners working on these efforts over the long haul.
Rachel, thank you very much for that presentation. Any questions from members of the commission? All right, thanks so much. Business, we've got 3 items. The first is resolution appointing a county attorney. I think this is on us to do this part. So does any commissioner want to tee us off? I'll be happy to. So I'll just jump in. So we have gone through a process to do interviews and a search process for a new county commission attorney. As I think folks will recollect, Bob Deutsch retired late last year. The position has been vacant since then, so we've gone through a process to advertise for a new attorney that would represent the county commission. And we had a number of really great folks apply, and we've gone through a process, and so that has led us to a resolution to appoint Heather Hockaday to serve as the new county commission attorney. This is considered a part-time position, and are there other comments other commissioners would want to add at this time?
I'll say I have an opportunity to
Turn your mic on, Joe.
we'll do that. Is that good? I would say that I've had an opportunity to visit with Ms. Hockaday, and found her to be a good fit, I believe, for a commission. We're needing someone to sit over there. No reflection on Mr. Fruit. He's got a big job, but we need someone to sit over there that handles us within here and answers other questions, outside of that. And I believe she'll do a good job. Her experience comes out of Burnsville, right?
She has represented the town of Burnsville and other local government work. That's correct.
For quite a while. I think as far as Mr. Fruit, as far as what we are paying her, that is posted somewhere, or is that not public, or is it?
I think that this board today
Can't hear you.
Agreed to any changes that Ms. Hockaday wanted for the service contract, so I think that's a moot point at this point. We can put it out as soon as the board.
Still can't hear you.
Yeah, Ms. Hockaday was going to do those changes and get them back to us.
So we'll do that.
We can't hear back here, Brownie. I'm sorry.
Okay, everyone please speak into the microphone. So the contract is a public contract as a person that reports directly to the board, so that is a public contract. So we'll be happy to get that for any members of the public that are interested. I believe, but just to sort of summarize some of the key elements of it, the county is contracting for sort of a base amount of time of 10 hours per week working for the county commission. I'm sorry, 10 hours per month. Per month. I'm sorry. Thank you for making sure I get it right. And then would be compensated on an hourly basis at $150 an hour for any time above and beyond that. Am I going to get the rest of it right? That's correct. Okay, great. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? We will take public comment on this. Once there's a motion.
Motion to approve.
All right. There's a motion and a second to appoint Heather Hockaday as the Buncombe County Commission attorney. Mr. Yelton.
Brownie, I thank you for your reply. I did it private, so I'll do it in public. Because when you do something good, I tell you that. When you do something bad, I tell you that. I don't want it to change. Appreciate you taking public comment on it. I also appreciate you having this as at least a resolution and not under the consent agenda. We know we went through that one time. And I think this good is there. I would also suggest that I would like to have a copy of the contract, and I appreciate you making that available. But based upon some information that the Citizen Times just released. I think you better start another search for another attorney that can prosecute federal fraud and laundering of money. Because it might get some money back for you, and you might not have to pay that person as much as you could get back. And if you don't know what I mean, I think you do, because you've been back there behind closed doors talking. And I want to caution you about what goes on in closed door meetings, because the general statute says, after the action occurs, I don't want to know who you're interviewing, but after the action occurs, and this contract's signed, the minutes of that closed session, you should be able to read them and understand what went on. And I've already told your county manager, I've always seen from Joe Conley days, that never done. It's always been redacted, shall we say, by the legal department. And I think you need to keep an eye on that, because you know, as long as I'm alive, I'll be reminding you of that. And thanking you for the checkbook, and looking for the cost of each library per library. Because if you break out your units, and you monitor their cost per unit at the ground level, you won't have abuse of big money. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rice.
Chairman, members of the board, don't ever count me and Don out. We've been sitting back there, we've evaluated you already. You know, if you got evaluation from us, you don't look too good in the general public, you know. Did you hear that? I mean, for us to get the news before you do, tell us, you know, that's pretty good. Anyway, this attorney that you're wanting to appoint, I think the contract should be put out for people to look at before you actually hire, to see if there's anybody in the community that might have something that you don't know about, and it don't be an embarrassment to you when you do find out. Did you get that? Because all the stuff you do behind closed doors don't always bring out things that might be to your benefit. No. These background checks don't show everything. Don't ever think attorneys ain't got some nasty stuff in their closet. Because if you don't know that, you don't need to be sitting with that. I have a general question. If you're going to pay this attorney at under $9 an hour for, is that right? After?
150.
After the 10 hours.
Okay, hourly basis after the first hours.
All right. Now, if you're going to include her travel time, and if she lives in Burnsville, we're going to burn a lot of money up if you're going to travel time. So I want to know if that is part of it. Because that's a long way to come, and when we got a town full of lawyers. Of course, I'd say this, I admire lawyers for not taking the job instead of taking it. I think we need to do a national search like me and Mr. Yelton this morning. To get, you know, you get what you pay for.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all for your comments. One clarification, Ms. Hockaday lives in Weaverville. She works she's done work for the town of Burnsville, but she lives in Weaverville. All right.
You're good, Jerry. She's safe.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Not still long distance.
If I'm on it, she'll just take her an hour to get in. I come in from Waverville, Brady.
Okay, all in favor, and we will get that contract out released very soon. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. And Ms. Hockaday, if you would wave your hand so everyone can meet you. She's a very nice
Y'all
person.
come pick me up, I appreciate it.
See, we like her already. She's got your number.
Hey, come the old
I'm
road.
coming from Gates County, so.
Come the old road. You'll make it quicker early in the
Make it
morning,
quicker,
seriously.
won't it?
All right. Welcome,
Wow.
Ms. Hockaday. We look forward to your work.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is the appointment of an interim finance director, and Eric, I'm sorry? If you guys don't mind, we do have we have that item that we added, and then the Zoidner pool. Since we're just on these appointments, thought we would just go ahead and do that one now, if that's all right. So the recommendation is to appoint Eric Hardy as an interim finance director. The county will be doing a search process for a new financial officer. And so, is there a motion to appoint Eric Hardy as the interim?
I so move.
All right, there's a motion and a second to appoint Eric Hardy as the interim finance director. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. And Tim, we want to acknowledge your service, so thank you very much, and we appreciate your 10 years of work for Buncombe County. Okay, last item under new business. Resolution authorizing payments for maintenance and operation of the Zoidner pool. And Michael Frew will, Jim Holland will take this item.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. When the replacement for Zoidner was approved by the Commission, at that time we turned over the operation and maintenance of the existing Zoidner pool to the Buncombe County Schools. At that time, through a resolution, you approved up to $150,000 per year to pay the schools for the maintenance and operation of Zoidner during the construction of the new pool. That resolution authorized those payments until June 30th of 2017. Those payments averaged about $65,000 each year. The new pool is scheduled for completion the first of the calendar year 2019. In order for the Buncombe County Schools has continued to provide the maintenance and the operational payments for Zoidner as it currently exists, and it is our opinion that in order for us to make those payments for the maintenance and operation of Zoidner until the new pool is complete, it will require authorization by you through a resolution to make those payments. And this resolution is asking you to authorize a payment of no more than $63,000 for this fiscal year, and no more than $40,625 for FY19. We have already identified the funds both for this year and for the next year, and is not requiring an increase in the appropriation of the board.
So I got a question. The Zoidner pool, community pool for a long, long time, so it's still going to maintain community access?
They have both for the existing pool and for the new pool that we're doing that.
I'll move approval. I'll second.
There's a motion and a second for resolution authorizing payment for the maintenance and operation of Zoidner pool. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Board appointments, we have one vacancy to the Mountain Area Work. Yes, sir. Oh, thank you very much. We've got more public comment. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I jumped over this different one on my sheet here. All right, the time limit for individual comment to the board is 3 minutes. Are there any additional members of the public who would like to comment? Mr. Rice, followed by Mr. Young, and then
we can't not speak twice.
Hey Jerry, could you lean into that mic a little bit? I couldn't hear you real good last time.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome, sir.
Is that good enough?
Yes, sir.
Take his minutes, not mine. Finishing up on my public comment for the board. While the fund balance, school fund balance of both systems continues to grow by millions, millions with an S, the classroom teacher should not worry about the need of their kids and supplies with millions of dollars in their fund balance. They went to Raleigh on this thing, you know, and their school board has got millions of dollars sitting over there, and they wouldn't even offer it. The teachers ought to know that. I spoke to a lot of teachers, and they didn't even know they had that in the fund balance. Shame on them, they ain't got good math teachers again. Salary supplement should not be, or it should be, to retain the best teachers. Yes, I agree. But to have a state-run school system, the teachers have enjoyed increases more than the county staffs and the average household has enjoyed. There is a way to correct this problem now, not next year, without hurting anyone. The first step, give me the policy. And I want to see you get the policy because you ain't got it. I want you to work on a policy that's going to spell out specific and it be separate to the current expense because all counties do not get this money. There's 5 counties that don't even get supplements. This should not be lumped into the current expense. This should be something that you talk in consideration every year. I've already talked to the finance director on one of the schools. They said they do not have any policy and they do not have any requirements. The only thing they got to do is give the amount they want to give to the county. I've got it in writing if you want to see it. Now, if you had a policy in place, the school fund balance could not have got to the point that it's got. It stayed at $6 million for years, and I'm talking about, I made a presentation in '97 on exactly what I'm standing here and telling you, commissioners, on what was going to happen, and it's happened more times than one. It takes an idiot, and I don't think we got them sitting up there. I'm going to say you are ignorant. I think it's politics. I do not think it's financially responsible for what you've been doing with this fund balance. And I want it to be in an open meeting here and talk about a policy on this very subject.
Thank you. Mr. Yellen.
I walked up while Jerry's going back to save a little time, because I'm sure you all are in a hurry to get out of here.
No, they gotta go in closed session.
Then you're gonna talk real good, but Tim, I was just getting used to you, and here you are leaving. Thank you for the questions you asked, and you know what I'm talking about. I appreciate it. Okay? Because that's in the article too. But I wanted to bring another solution to you. I mentioned this before, Mike, and I think as I went through the budget, I saw that our buildings are in bad shape. If you've not read the budget details, you need to read it. Water is penetrating the buildings. Yes, Allport building, one over here on the corner of the avenue there, where the old county commissioner's office used to be. You're going to have to replace the chiller in the Justice building, and it's only 5 years old because it's not doing capacity. So if it's not reaching capacity, somebody misdesigned it, or there was enough change orders, which normally happens in a contract, to exceed the capacity of the chiller. And if that happened, then your general contractor should have caught it. So I think you need to look at starting a program on maintenance at AB Tech. I'm dead serious about it, folks. You got apartments buildings going all over the county. Somebody's going to have to be able to monitor the heating and the cooling, the plumbing, repair work. What's going on in the windows? Repair windows. And if you don't have that course over there, Mike, start pulling some strings and get it. Because these industry and these plants are going to need maintenance people too. And that is a job that will pay well in the future, because you have a hard time right now finding anybody to do any maintenance work. We're to the point now where if you've got a pickup truck, a cell phone, and a toolbox in the back, you're a builder. And it was this way one time before. And you know what that caused too, Al. and made a lot of bad loans on houses that weren't built right. So I suggest strongly that you start that program at AB Tech. That's right up there with an open checkbook, and right up there with the libraries being individually accountable, and that's right up there with everything else that you oversee being individually accountable at the bottom level. And then you'll have the facts and the figures you need, and we might create some good jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don, Mr. Yelton, I am working at AB Tech very hard to be able to try to, and have, as far as maintenance, getting maintenance through the Linamar and trying to get maintenance people to be able to have jobs. It's been hard, but I've been working hard at it. That's the best I can tell you.
Maybe we need to get the schools involved like we did at Pisgah. And if you want some money back here, make them work for it.
All right, is this general public comment Hi, I'm Hillary Brown. I'm with the Study Collective. Jennifer spoke a little bit about what we do. And I just wanted to come tonight to thank y'all for the funding that we've received in the past from you. We received $20,000 last year, and I want to ask that you double it this year. And I want to tell you a little bit about why. In the first quarter of this year, there were 935 reversals reported to the state. 101 of those were done by studies participants. So 1/10 of the reversals for opioid overdoses that were done in the state were done here by participants of study. We pass out naloxone to folks who are actively using. So all of those reversals are happening from folks who receive services from our program and are actively using. We also passed out 73,000 syringes last year, as Jennifer noted, and we did 27,000 this first quarter, which means this year we will do 35,000 more syringes than we did last year. We're also now doing fentanyl strip testing, so folks who are using drugs can test their drugs to make sure it doesn't contain fentanyl or a fentanyl analog to help prevent overdose. Today, I was at Exchange and we had 8 positive reports just today of fentanyl being present in the drugs that folks are using. 6 of those were heroin, 1 was Xanax, and 1 was meth. So that shows you how prevalent fentanyl is in the drugs that folks are using in town. We need more funding because the crisis is getting worse. We are having to do more work, and the need is just not being met. And I know that the opioid crisis is one of the county commissioner's 6 most important issues that they're focusing on. And we need that part of that money allocated for the opioid crisis to be allocated for harm reduction, because we really are the first line. We're meeting people where they are, and we're meeting folks in active use. So I thank y'all for listening to me. I'm going to hand y'all some stats, just so you have those.
Sure, thanks, Hillary. Michael?
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman. My name is Michael Harney. I work at the Western North Carolina AIDS Project. I also teach Spanish at AB Tech and at Blue Ridge Community College. And I'm a co-founder with a gentleman by the name of Marty Prairie of the Needle Exchange Program of Asheville. We started that in 1994. So if indeed we could have needle exchange and syringe exchange and safe disposal provided at our local health department, it would be 25 years in the making. And I, like Mr. Yelton, am not going away anytime soon in my planning. I will be back and to visit you, and I'll answer questions. I hope to consult, along with the study collectives, professionals with the county health department to understand what it is that they can do, what they should be doing, how to do it best, the best practices that we've learned all these years. I would highly encourage you, all of us who are listening to this, to go to the website www.aids2018.org. That is to the International AIDS Conference, which will be held in Amsterdam this summer. There'll be high science there, and all sorts of questions may be answered about harm reduction, about the vulnerable populations of injecting drug users, among the others that I've mentioned here before. There's also a conference coming up, the U.S. Conference on AIDS. It'll be held in Orlando. It's another opportunity for you to be educated about the issues and the real reason that we even started Needle Exchange in the first place. The reason I'm wearing this red ribbon is because of HIV/AIDS awareness. And so I wear that for prevention. I wear the yellow ribbon for hepatitis C prevention. These were tools that were kind of implemented, mottos that people used over the years. There's one final conference that I think you may be of interest knowing about, and that is the National Harm Reduction Conference. It will be held in New Orleans this year in October. And I would challenge you, if somebody would match me, and if they wouldn't, I will provide a grant for one county commissioner to attend that conference. If they would like to go, I'll make sure that I pay for that completely. Hotel accommodations, travel, and the conference registration. It is so important to me that we see harm reduction and the vulnerable populations that we serve at the Needle Exchange Program of Asheville, at the Steady Collective, at the Full Circle Recovery Center, and hopefully at our health department and all health departments in Western North Carolina, all 85 of them across the state of North Carolina. It is so important that we take this seriously, and I am grateful to you for taking it seriously. I'm grateful to the health department, the health director here in Buncombe County for taking this seriously, for hearing me out, and for putting up with me, and for what I don't believe are my shenanigans, but certainly my compassion for the people that we serve. They are human beings, and at no point do they lose their humanity. They deserve dignity, they deserve respect, they deserve all that we can do to provide the health care services that we can provide to them, and I am grateful to you all. I am grateful to you, Jennifer, for making this. I'm grateful to my colleagues Michelle and the Steady Collective Hillary and to other people in our community who are doing this work. I thank you again, and I'll see you one more time, I'm sure, before February when we perhaps will implement Needle Exchange at our county health department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Dr. Bela Ostrak. I'm a medical anthropologist and a research scientist at Mayhew, and I study HIV and hepatitis C interactions and harm reduction. And I just wanted to echo actually what other folks have said tonight about the importance of community-based, trusted syringe access programs where participants know and trust the people that they're coming to for these services. All of the existing research nationally, internationally, and in this region, actually much of it has been done in Appalachia and in the South, shows that people are more likely to engage with these services in ways that are going to result in a reduction in disease transmission, and specifically in a reduction in overdose, when they're coming to a community-based exchange that is not in a county health department or in a government facility. They're more likely to come to a site where they know and trust people. And we know that not just locally, but from existing published, peer-reviewed, evidence-based research. Specifically, there are articles that I can get you the citations for. I can get you the full articles if you want those, showing a major concern that Jennifer mentioned. Policing activity and police presence near a syringe access program is associated with more risky injecting behavior and is associated specifically with an increase in disease transmission and an increase in overdose, and people are actually less likely to use a syringe access program if it's in a building where there is police activity. And we also know that syringe access participants report that their overdose and safe injecting supplies, their overdose response medication and injecting supplies are often confiscated by law enforcement folks, and which is legal, and that happens nationally. There are a lot of articles about this at places where it's been going on for a long time, but we're also hearing about locally. In addition to the research that I do, I'm also a volunteer with the Steady Collective, so Hillary can speak to this more directly, but it's something that we know has been happening locally. So all of that is just to say that it explains why some of these community-based programs are more trusted and people are more likely to go there and actually get the naloxone and the overdose response medications and the safe injecting supplies. So while we certainly understand why people want to have these services in county health departments, there's actually a 4th county health department that has these services. I was there earlier today in Cherokee. Obviously, it's a different funding model. It's tribal health, but that program started in February, so I was there meeting with some of the staff today. They have some specific unique challenges. It's a different environment, but it would be another model to look at. But there are advantages and disadvantages that are important to understand. But we know that there's a model that works, and it's a community-based, trusted model. We know folks are going there. We know people are using those services. So I think, there's an expression about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Please continue funding what we know is working, where we know people are going. Continue funding it. Fund it at a level that'll work, particularly while you're exploring something else. So if you're thinking about doing something new and additional, as you're exploring how that could look, please continue funding what you know is working. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Caitlin Johnson, and I'm a teacher for Buncombe County Schools. I teach early childhood education to high school students who are interested in working with young children, and I also serve as the director for our in-house preschool. We are one of 4 of these programs in Buncombe County Schools. However, we are only one of 19 in the state, so we're pretty special. It was extremely exciting when many of you came out to visit us, and we appreciate that. I work in early childhood education by chance. When I earned my undergraduate degree, my intention was to be an elementary school teacher. However, my program included enough credits for a dual license in elementary and early childhood, as there were more early childhood jobs out there, and my college understood that. It was by chance that while I was at Robertson High School one day, I saw a small preschool playground and began asking questions, and that's when I learned about the high school early childhood programs. It was also by chance that Irwin High needed a secondary ECE teacher that same year, and I was chosen for the position. As a professional, I've received continuous guidance from Buncombe Partnership for Children, and by chance, at 6 months pregnant, they asked me if I wanted a free master's degree through the Teach Scholarship, a scholarship program for potential and current early childhood professionals, and I took it. For the past 2.5 years, I've been working on an ECE degree in leadership, policy, and advocacy without accruing any college debt, and that has allowed me to be a full-time teacher, mom, and graduate student. While studying, I found myself watching the ECE workforce session where Ms. Beach-Ferreira asked the question, what is working with regards to the early childhood education workforce? And I knew I had some answers to that with our program. At the end of that session, Ms. Nygaard's email was posted, and I contacted her, and it was then her who took the chance on me as an intern. And currently I'm working on a case study on Buncombe County's progress with workforce development with regards to early childhood, and should complete my degree in July. While my story is nice to hear, I tell it because I'm a product of the work you are doing every day for our children, families, and for making early childhood education a priority. The work you are doing is giving more people more opportunities, and it directly impacts me and the students I work with every single day, so thank you. As I said, it was by chance that I ended up here, but however, when I look at it more closely, it's truly opportunity why I'm here. Opportunities like the one I have seized with the Teach Scholarship, or the ones that we heard about earlier tonight. These people, you are providing people with a good life and a solid future with these opportunities. In 2015, an evaluation of the Teach Scholarship Program found that 54% of the Teach Early Childhood participants were not working on a degree before they learned about the project, and I'm one of those people. I was not planning on getting a master's degree in early childhood. So in the words of Ms. Nygaard, that shows us that when we create passive opportunities, people will step into them. So commissioners, I commend you for your work to minimize those by chance moments and intentionally create opportunities for people to step into. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Kim Roney, and I'm a piano teacher and service industry worker that lives in West Ashland District 1. I came here today to watch the budget hearing, and I wasn't planning to speak on this, but I wanted to amplify the voices of Michael and the folks from the Steady Collective. I am thankful that we're looking at a pilot program with another location, especially one where folks are already coming to Buncombe Health and Human Services. But I also heard in the presentation that we need trusted resources and to meet people where they are. So as a taxpayer, it seems like it would lessen the bureaucracy, but also amplify the efforts if we can meet people where they are and increase the efforts and funding for the Steady Collective and Human Cap. So thank you for that consideration.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's go to board appointments. We've got an opening on the Mount Airy Workforce Development Board, 1 vacancy. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Agricultural Advisory Board, 1 vacancy. All in favor of Gary Roberts, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we've got a couple of brief announcements. June 12th at 10 a.m. the commissioners will attend the Mission Health Update at 200 College Street in downtown Asheville, and that will be a joint, that'll be a joint meeting with the Asheville City Council, right? So there'll be a joint meeting with Asheville City Council and the County Commission on June 12th at 10 a.m. to receive an update regarding the Mission Health acquisition by HCA. And that's on the first floor here at 200 College Street. On June 19th at 5 p.m., the County Commissioners will hold a regular meeting at 200 College Street in room 326. We do have a need for a closed session. Mr. Frew.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have one item, we now have 2 items. So 143, 318, 11A3. One is regarding the United States of America, Wanda S. Green, docket number 18CR68, bill of indictment. The other is to get direction from the board on another legal matter, and I think we need to leave the door open to take further action.
Okay, so we may take further action when we come back out of closed session to be determined.
Yes, sir.
All right. We need a motion to go to closed session. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. That was correct now.
That was a good job.
Thank you, Mike, Fruit.
Hey, I hear you don't think a hot dog's a sandwich. That's right. Apparently the owner of hot dog
It's only a sandwich if you cut two of them and put them between two.
All right, we need a motion to get back into open session.
So moved.
We are,
We had a quorum. We had a quorum.
Okay.
okay, we'll take just a minute break for Commissioner Whiteside.
Okay. For you, Gary.
Joe, I can't hear you.
That's how you reduce the impact.
I do it all the time.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the county will not take any action in the open session that's been reconvened, but we do want to make a brief announcement that the county is issuing a statement in response to the new federal indictments that have been announced late today against former county manager Wanda Green. So I have a statement from the county commission which we'll make available to the media and the public. I've got hard copies of it here, and electronic versions of it will be sent out shortly. So I don't know that any county commissioners anticipate making individual statements about this tonight. We've just learned about the indictments in the last hour, and so I think we're all trying to learn more about the specifics that are within them. But the announcement that we're making, I'll just read the headline. Buncombe County Commissioners respond to additional federal charges leveled at former county manager Wanda Green regarding life insurance fraud, and Buncombe County Commissioners announced that a civil lawsuit will be filed against Wanda Green and Michael Green by Buncombe County. All right, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.